What strange habits could I possibly have? Lu Changsheng's eyes were clear, his expression calm as he replied. Lu Miaoyun studied him for a moment, still doubtful, before finally looking away without saying anything. After all, being looked at was only natural. She had dressed like this to be seen. Though she normally snapped at anyone who stared too long, she felt no irritation at Lu Changsheng's gaze. Instead, there was a quiet satisfaction in her heart. So I really am charming, she thought. No wonder I'm the most beautiful. They walked together for a short while. Well, this is where I turn back. Goodbye, 2nd Mississippi. At the crossroads, Lu Changsheng waved and turned away without hesitation. He had no intention of lingering. To him, this was simply a convenient stopping point before heading home for a bath. Lu Miaoyun watched his retreating back, lips pursed slightly. He did not even ask her to stay for tea. Goodbye, she murmured, turning away with the proud grace of a peacock. That night, White Jade Tower delivered the 4 maidservants Lu Changsheng had purchased. Since he had chosen those who were immediately available, they arrived without delay. Only Xiao Yueju, who possessed a spirit root, would be delivered a month later. Gao He, who lived nearby, happened to see this and felt quietly unsettled. Lu Changsheng's courtyard already held too many women. Now it was growing even more crowded. He glanced back toward his own home and sighed. He even had a daughter. One could never be too careful around someone like Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng, of course, had no idea what Gao He was thinking. What he did notice was how cramped his courtyard had become. If this keeps up, there won't be any space left at all, he muttered. So many people meant so many expenses. Food, clothing, residence permits. Everything cost spirit stones. Still, he pushed those worries aside for the moment and went about his routine. Half a month passed quietly. Cultivation, talisman crafting, and work filled his days. One of the new maidservants soon showed signs of pregnancy. Then a servant came from the 2nd elder with news that they would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain in 10 days. I will go with him, Lu Changsheng replied without hesitation. After several days of inspections and preparations, Gao He came to assist him once more. When everything was done, Lu Changsheng paid him his agreed fee. After a moment of hesitation, Gao He spoke. Brother Lu, the defect rate of goods at your shop is a bit unusual. For a store with your family's reputation, it shouldn't be this high. Lu Changsheng immediately understood what he meant. Thank you for reminding me, he said with a faint smile. I know what's going on. Gao He relaxed. He had only spoken out of goodwill. 3 days later, the 2nd elder and Lu Miaoga arrived at Lu Changsheng's residence. When the 2nd elder saw how many women were living there and how many of them were pregnant, he was stunned. Changsheng, are all of these your maidservants? Are they all carrying your children? Lu Changsheng felt a little awkward but nodded. The 2nd elder let out a long sigh. Enjoyment is fine, but do not lose yourself in it. You still need to focus on cultivation and your talisman path. I understand, Lu Changsheng replied respectfully. That night, back at the Eastern District residence, Lu Miaoqing unexpectedly came by to return the 20 spirit stones he had borrowed. Lu Changsheng accepted them with some surprise. The next morning, the 2nd elder brought out a flying boat. With a flash of light, it expanded and carried them swiftly toward Qingzhou Mountain. When Lu Changsheng returned home, his wives and children rushed out to greet him. Husband, Daddy. The warmth of home wrapped around him, filling him with a quiet happiness that no market or city could replace. Later, elsewhere in the valley, the 4th elder listened in disbelief as the 2nd elder explained what he had seen. 11, all pregnant? She frowned, clearly troubled. I will speak to him myself tomorrow, she said at last. I need to see what is really going on. And so, unseen by Lu Changsheng, a new wave of scrutiny was already on its way. Lu Changsheng had no idea that the 2nd elder had already reported his Jiolong market affairs to the 4th elder. At the moment, he was in the courtyard, surrounded by children, laughing and playing. The place had long since turned into something like a little playground. As dusk fell, Lu Miaoyun reminded him that it was time to head to White Deer Mountain Villa to pick up the children. Over the past few months, Lu Ping'an, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila had all been sent there to study, so the women went back and forth regularly. "I'll come too," Lu Changsheng said at once. He had never once picked his children up himself. So the two of them left together, walking through Qingzhou Mountain toward the villa. Along the way, Lu Changsheng told Lu Miaoyun about his life in Jiolong Market. He did not hide that he had taken in more women and that more children had been born. There was no point hiding it. Sooner or later, everyone would know. And once the second elder spoke, the news would reach the rest of the family anyway. Lu Miaoyun fell silent after hearing it. She did not scold him. She only pouted slightly and told him he needed to spend more time with his family. Lu Changsheng felt a quiet warmth in his chest. A peaceful household was more precious than anything. "Husband," Lu Miaoyun said softly as she held his arm, "next year, Ping'an and the others will take part in the spirit root test." Lu Changsheng's heart sank. He knew those 4 children did not have spirit roots. Still, he forced a smile. Whatever their fate is, we'll accept it. If they can cultivate, that's wonderful. If not, they can still live full and happy lives. Lu Miaoyun squeezed his hand gently. Soon, they arrived at White Deer Mountain Villa. Parents were already waiting, and when the bell rang, the children came running out. "Daddy! Mommy!" The 4 little ones rushed over. Lu Changsheng scooped 2 of them up at once, laughing, and handed out candied fruit he had prepared. They walked home together, a family of 6, chatting and laughing all the way. That night, after a long separation, the household felt especially warm. Before dawn, Lu Changsheng was woken by a maid. The 4th elder had arrived. When he entered the hall with Lu Miaoyun, he saw the elderly woman holding little Lu Yun with a fond smile. After a few words of greeting, she looked at him kindly. "Changsheng, draw me a talisman. Let me see if you've been neglecting your studies." Lu Changsheng smiled inwardly. He had expected this. He took out his tools and began drawing an Earth Escape talisman. His hand was steady, his strokes clean. The 4th elder's eyes widened in surprise. Already this skilled? Then Lu Changsheng went a step further and attempted the Ice Frost talisman. Though he failed at first, he adjusted quickly. On his 3rd attempt, the talisman formed successfully. The old woman stared at it, stunned. "You learned this on your own?" Lu Changsheng nodded. After a moment, she sighed. "So your cultivation and talisman work have not suffered at all." Then she added slowly, "The second elder said you've been rather busy in Jiolong Market." Lu Changsheng hesitated before speaking. "Grandma, this may sound strange, but when I'm with women, my mind becomes clearer. My talisman work improves. It feels natural." The 4th elder was silent. In the world of cultivation, strange constitutions and spiritual bodies were nothing new. What Lu Changsheng described was unusual, but not impossible. At last, she nodded. "As long as your path is not affected, that is what matters." Lu Changsheng let out a quiet breath of relief. Whatever the truth was, he knew one thing clearly. His talent was real, and no one could deny it.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
After having intimacy, it's very easy to draw talismans. Even some things that I didn't understand would become smoother after having intimacy with my wives and concubines. When the 4th elder heard this, she couldn't help but pause and fall into deep thought. Although Lu Changsheng's words sounded absurd, but she didn't doubt the truth of his words. After all, in the cultivation world, there was nothing strange or impossible. Not to mention that being with someone could improve one's talisman skills. There were even more absurd and unbelievable things she had heard of. Moreover, through her long-term interactions and understanding, she had a certain level of trust in Lu Changsheng. She felt that he didn't need to use such words to deceive her. Besides, the facts were right in front of her. Lu Changsheng's actions had proven his words. Could it be that Changsheng has a certain physical constitution related to talismans? The fourth elder wondered in her heart. Only this reason could explain Lu Changsheng's situation. A young farmer boy without any prior experience in cultivation or talismans, yet he had a natural talent for talismans. Through self-study and practice, he became a mid-grade talisman master in just a year and a half. And despite spending a lot of time and energy on romantic affairs, his progress in talismans was still extremely rapid. She had thought about this question before. But she had only thought that Lu Changsheng was naturally talented in talismans and was also very diligent. However, now that she thought about it in terms of his spiritual body, Lu Changsheng having a spiritual body related to talismans made everything seem reasonable. "Grandma, do you know what's going on with my situation?" Lu Changsheng asked, seeing the fourth elder's thoughtful expression. "Changsheng, I've never heard of a situation like yours." The fourth elder shook her head and asked, "Is there anything else unusual about you besides this?" "No, I just felt that after being with someone, my hand felt more comfortable when drawing talismans, and my thinking was more clear-headed, but I didn't think much of it and was too caught up in it. It was only after I went to Jiolong Market that I gradually discovered that being with someone could affect my talisman drawing, and it was also like this, so I got a bit carried away for a while." Lu Changsheng said so. Although he wanted to attribute his situation to his spiritual body, he couldn't say too much, or it would sound too absurd. As long as he could explain his situation and justify his past actions, that would be enough. Otherwise, in the future, when he got married and had children, he would have to consider the Lu family's attitude. "Changsheng, Grandma suspects that you may have a special physical constitution related to talismans," the fourth elder said, her voice slightly hesitant as she expressed her guess. "Talisman physical constitution?" Lu Changsheng repeated. "Grandma, I've also thought about it before, whether I might be some kind of spiritual body, but there's too little information about spiritual bodies, and I couldn't find any similar cases," Lu Changsheng continued. "There's very little information about spiritual bodies, and Grandma doesn't know much about it either," the fourth elder said with a slight sigh. "The reason Grandma is guessing this is because spiritual bodies are different from spirit roots, and all sorts of strange and unusual physical constitutions are possible," the fourth elder said, her expression serious. She looked at Lu Changsheng and warned him, "Changsheng, you mustn't tell anyone about this, or it could bring you danger and trouble." The fourth elder said so. "Grandma, don't worry, I definitely won't tell anyone else about this. Only you," Lu Changsheng said. Good, Changsheng, you can rest assured that Grandma will keep this secret for you," the fourth elder said, feeling relieved. She thought to herself that this grandson-in-law wasn't useless, and he treated her like family. Then she said, "Changsheng, about your situation, Grandma won't say much about your romantic affairs. But Changsheng, you must remember that talismans are important, but your body and cultivation are the foundation. If your body and cultivation aren't good, it will be hard to make progress in talismans, so you mustn't overdo it in romantic affairs, and you must take care of your body and cultivate well. As for getting married and having children, as long as you don't go overboard, Grandma will help you explain things to the Lu family and Miao Yun's side." The fourth elder spoke, her words heavy with concern. She knew that Lu Changsheng had this physical constitution, and it was impossible for him not to be involved with women. She just hoped that Lu Changsheng would be moderate and not exhaust himself. "Grandma, I understand." Lu Changsheng nodded immediately. "Yes, as long as you're aware of this yourself, that's enough," the fourth elder said, nodding her head, and didn't say anything more. She knew that this grandson-in-law, apart from his romantic affairs and having children, was very good in other aspects. He was a person who understood the importance of things and knew how to prioritize. She suddenly felt that Lu Changsheng's preferences and this physical constitution were truly a perfect match. "Changsheng, you should also be a bit more careful when having children," the fourth elder said. "Otherwise, if you have too many children in the future, it will be a significant burden for you and affect your own cultivation." The fourth elder thought of Lu Changsheng's situation, having over 10 children in half a year, and added another sentence. In a family, children could be a source of strength and a means of passing down the family legacy, but if it got to a certain point, they could also become a burden. Not only would it drain one's energy, but sometimes it could also get caught up in a whirlpool. Grandma, you also know that I don't have any grand ambitions, and I don't crave that kind of fleeting, intangible foundation, Lu Changsheng said. I'm already very satisfied with my current life, and I just want to have more children and have a big, happy family in the future. If my children have spirit roots, I'll do my best to support them in their cultivation, so they can have a smoother path ahead, Lu Changsheng said. This wasn't the first time he had expressed his ambitions to others, so he spoke with great sincerity. All right, Grandma understands. Just take care of your body and don't neglect your cultivation, the fourth elder said with a slight sigh. She also knew that Lu Changsheng didn't have any grand ambitions, and he didn't have high expectations for his cultivation. He just had a strong desire for a family life, with a wife and children. But thinking about Lu Changsheng's 9th-grade spirit root, she couldn't say much about this situation, and chose to understand. Besides, for the Lu family, they also hoped that Lu Changsheng would be like this. A person who only sought a stable life, with a warm and loving family, was much better than someone who was full of ambition and single-mindedly pursued the path of cultivation. Thank you, Grandma, Lu Changsheng said, bowing his head in gratitude. He knew that this matter was now settled. And with his spiritual body as a cover, in the future, whether it was getting married, having children, or making progress in talismans, it would be much easier to explain. Hee, we're all family, no need to. To be polite with Grandma, the fourth elder said with a warm smile. Then, she began to instruct Lu Changsheng on how to draw an ice frost talisman. After teaching him the ice frost talisman, the fourth elder, thinking about Lu Changsheng's physical condition and the fact that he was going to Jiolong Market and wouldn't be back for a while, taught him 2 more mid-level talismans. It wasn't to let Lu Changsheng learn them immediately, but to give him a foundation so that in the future, if he wanted to learn on his own, it would be easier. After teaching him how to draw talismans, the fourth elder also spent some time with her great-grandchildren and chatted with Lu Miaoyun before leaving. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. During this time, Lu Changsheng had accompanied his wives and also went to visit Li Feiyu. He went to catch up with his good friend, chat with him, and have a meal together. The other party was still working crazily, doing multiple jobs, including being a butcher, a spirit farmer, and a laundry worker, and even raising 2 black boars at home. Lu Changsheng knew that it was pointless to try to advise him, so he didn't say much. He just had a meal with him, chatted with him, and when he left, he gave some red envelopes to the children. Let's go. Lu Changsheng took Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin with him as he prepared to head to Jiolong Market. This time, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin would also be accompanying him to Jiolong Market. This was also something he had discussed with his wives. Every time he returned, he would bring 2 of his wives to Jiolong Market for a short stay. He was bringing 2 people because the second elder's flying boat had limited seating. If there were too many people, there might not be enough space. Before leaving, Lu Changsheng also handed over the task of trading talismans with Hong Yi to Lu Lanshu. If Hong Yi's people came, she would take the talisman box and trade it. After all, this kind of transaction was quite simple. It was just exchanging goods for money. Now, his transactions with Hong Yi had also increased, from the original 3 months, 30 low-grade talismans, to 50 low-grade talismans and 10 medium-grade talismans. Lu Changsheng and the 2 women arrived at the Qingju Mountain Gate, where they saw the second elder and 2 other Lu family disciples waiting for them. Yesterday, Lu Changsheng had already given the second elder advance notice, telling him that he would be bringing Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin on the flying boat to Jiolong Market. Second elder. Second elder. Grandfather. Lu Changsheng and the 2 women bowed in greeting. Since you're all here, let's depart, the second elder said with a smile. Then, he released the flying boat and everyone boarded. Chu Zhenjin was still a bit nervous, tightly holding onto Lu Changsheng. As the flying boat took off, she looked around curiously and would occasionally lean in to whisper to Lu Changsheng. However, even though she was trying to speak softly, everyone else could still hear her. And so, after a day and a half, the flying boat landed safely outside Jiolong Market. Lu Changsheng went to get long-term identity cards for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin. Although the two women would only be staying for about half a year, it was better to get long-term cards instead of short-term ones, which were only valid for half a month. After bidding farewell to the second elder, Lu Changsheng brought the two women to his residence. Miss Xiaoqing, who was already about half pregnant, was carrying a big belly. When she saw Lu Miaoyun, her face immediately turned red with shame. Initially, Lu Miaoyun had told her to follow Lu Changsheng to Jiolong Market and keep an eye on him. But in the end, not only did she fail to do so, but she also ended up with a big belly. Sister Miaoyun, Sister Xinjin. Guan Xian also called out to the two of them. Then, Lu Changsheng introduced Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin to the other women in the courtyard. We've met, madam. We've met, madam. We've met, madam. Xiao Yuyao and the other maidservants all bowed in greeting. Although these maidservants were mostly pregnant, they still had to maintain the hierarchy among wives, concubines, and maidservants in this world. Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin had already known beforehand that Lu Changsheng had many concubines in Jiolong Market. But seeing a courtyard full of beautiful women, all of whom were pregnant, they couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Lu Changsheng also noticed that his two wives were feeling uneasy. After the introductions, he took them out to stroll around, eat, and have fun. The two women had been living in Qingzhou Valley, and their lives were very dull and boring. Coming to Jiolong Market and experiencing the food, drink, and entertainment was a great joy, and their small unhappiness dissipated. In these 3 days, Lu Changsheng spent over 100 spirit stones on shopping and entertainment with the two women. With Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin joining the family, Lu Changsheng's life didn't change much. He just became more restrained in his romantic affairs, not like before when he would sleep with different women every night. Before long, half a month had passed. Lu Changsheng received a message from White Jade Tower, informing him that the concubine Xiao Yueru he had purchased was ready for pickup. Immediately, Lu Changsheng went to White Jade Tower to inspect his new concubine. She had a dignified and elegant appearance, with a head of black hair styled in a bun, giving off a mature and feminine aura. Her almond-shaped eyes were dull and lifeless, with a high nose bridge and plump lips that would be very sweet if she smiled. She wore a water blue dress, with a tall and slender figure, a full and proud chest that was almost bursting out of her clothes, and a beautiful, rounded bottom that was like a ripe peach, making one's mouth water. Xiao Yueru greets young Master Lu. Xiao Yueru's face was still pale and wan, and her voice was soft and gentle, like a willow branch swaying in the wind. Miss Xiao, are you willing to be my concubine? Lu Changsheng looked at Xiao Yueru in front of him and asked lightly. He, Lu Changsheng, would never force someone to do something against their will, even if he had paid for it. Xiao Yueru also knew her fate. She couldn't refuse this kind of thing, and besides, the young man in front of her didn't seem like a bad person. She immediately smiled and curtsied, saying, Xiao Yueru is willing to be your concubine. Her smile was indeed very sweet, like a lovely young girl, and it perfectly combined with the mature and feminine aura in her eyebrows and eyes, exuding a captivating charm. All right, Feng Jianyang, I'm very satisfied. Lu Changsheng smiled lightly and said to Feng Jianyang. After completing the transaction with Feng Jianyang, Lu Changsheng took Xiao Yueru's spirit contract and brought her back home. During the process, Lu Changsheng also directly told Xiao Yueru that he had bought her to bear children. As long as she could give birth to several children, he wouldn't mistreat her. As for other matters, he didn't say much and didn't ask about Xiao Yueru's situation. After all, since he had walked out of White Jade Tower, these causal relationships were no longer his concern. He also didn't have the ability to help resolve these matters. After saying these words, Lu Changsheng suddenly felt a sense of dizziness. He recalled the time when he was eliminated by Blue Cloud Sect and Lu Yuanding appeared, saying he wanted to take him as a son-in-law and have him bear 50 children in 20 years. At this moment, he was similar to Lu Yuanding back then. This is life. Lu Changsheng felt a sense of melancholy in his heart. He then lightly laughed and said, Regardless of good or evil, I just want to be free from shame. When he returned home, Lu Changsheng had already told Lu Miaoyun about Xiao Yueru, so she didn't have any objections. He arranged for Xiao Yueru to live with another maid. Since Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin had arrived, the courtyard had become a bit crowded. So, several maids were living together in one room. In daily life, Lu Changsheng saw that Lu Miaoyun and Chu Xinjin were also quite bored, so he occasionally taught them how to make talismans. He wanted to see if he could use his talisman-making skills to teach the two women to become talisman masters. Lu Miaoyun had been verified by the fourth elder and indeed didn't have any talent in this area. Chu Xinjin was slightly better, but not by much. This made Lu Changsheng sigh inwardly, thinking that it would be difficult to teach his children a skill in the future. Without any talent, one could only rely on money to make up for it. But even with money, there were limits to how far one could go. Time flew by, and before long, more than a month had passed. Xiao Yueru had successfully become pregnant under Lu Changsheng's care. And Xiao Yuyo's child had also been born. What made Lu Changsheng regretful was that this child didn't have a spirit root. Half a month later, in the third-floor talisman room of the Spirit Talisman Shop. Lu Changsheng let out a long sigh, looking at the black dragon magic bead floating in front of him, his eyes filled with joy. After nearly 3 months of cultivation, this magical treasure had finally been refined by him and could be condensed into his body. Immediately, Lu Changsheng took off his upper garment, revealing his sturdy and muscular chest. He was also preparing to condense the black dragon magic bead into his chest bone. However, each part of the body could only condense one magical treasure. He wanted to condense the black dragon magic bead, but he had to remove the magical treasure fragment from his chest bone first. Lu Changsheng lightly snorted, and the 100 treasure refinement body tempering technique began to operate. His chest glowed with a soft, precious light, and the black iron block forming the black birthmark started to move slightly. Gradually, a black fragment emerged from his chest, slowly coming out. After a long time, the magical treasure fragment was removed. Lu Changsheng took a sip of jade bamboo wine, and then used a spirit stone to recover his spiritual energy. Refining the black dragon magic bead and removing the magical treasure fragment had consumed a lot of his energy. He had to recover his internal spiritual energy before he could continue to condense the black dragon magic bead into his body. When his spiritual energy was almost fully recovered, Lu Changsheng began to condense the black dragon magic bead into his body. Under the influence of his spiritual energy, the black dragon magic bead started to merge with Lu Changsheng's chest, slowly becoming one with it. As time passed, the black dragon magic bead was completely absorbed into Lu Changsheng's chest, condensed into his chest bone. This left a black dragon magic bead pattern on his chest. At the moment the black dragon magic bead entered his chest bone, Lu Changsheng felt a surge of powerful energy washing over his blood, meridians, and bones. He felt that his 100 treasure refinement body tempering technique was constantly being refined and elevated. This is the effect of condensing a magical treasure into the body? It's 100 times better than the previous magical treasure fragment. With this power refining my body, even if I don't cultivate, my 100-treasure refinement body tempering technique will be able to break through to the second stage in just 2.5 years. Lu Changsheng quietly savored the refining power of the black dragon magic bead, and his face was filled with joy and surprise. The refining effect of condensing a magical treasure into his body was far better than he had expected. If he continued to cultivate like this, his physical strength would be able to surpass his qi refining. I wonder when I'll be able to get a qi refining manual. This trashy returning to the origin technique is really frustrating. Lu Changsheng thought about the returning to the origin technique he was currently cultivating and couldn't help but sigh. If he could get a qi refining manual like the 100-treasure refinement body tempering technique, his foundation and strength would not only increase, but his cultivation speed might also improve. However, Xiaoqing is about to give birth soon. If this child has a spirit root, according to my previous guess, it's very likely to have a chance to draw a prize. Lu Changsheng let out a long sigh, thinking to himself. As he was about to put on his clothes, he looked at the dark, glowing pattern on his chest that seemed to hide the shape of a dragon, and couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. This looks much better. In his opinion, this pattern was far more beautiful than the previous magical treasure fragment. That was like a black birthmark. There's only a little spiritual energy left in this fragment, and there's no need to condense it into other parts of my body. Lu Changsheng looked at the magical treasure fragment in his hand. This fragment had been helping him cultivate for almost a year now, and the spiritual energy inside was almost depleted. Otherwise, he could have condensed this magical treasure fragment into his hand bone or foot bone to aid his cultivation. Seeing that it was getting late, Lu Changsheng stood up, tidied up, and left the spirit talisman shop and headed home. Friend Lu, I wonder if the top-quality talismans in your talisman shop have been sold out? When Lu Changsheng just arrived at his doorstep, the left side courtyard opened. A middle-aged man in his 40s with a thick beard and a calm demeanor walked out, saw Lu Changsheng, and asked, "Friend Xia, my shop has already sold out the 3 top-grade talismans this month. You're going to hunt demonic beasts again, aren't you, and that's why you want to buy top-grade talismans?" Lu Changsheng said in surprise when he heard this. This middle-aged man was named Xia Long, a new neighbor who had moved in a few months ago. Like the previous neighbor who had moved out, he claimed to hunt demonic beasts to make a living. As for whether it was true or not, Lu Changsheng didn't know. This neighbor often went out and wasn't at home, so when he knew that Lu Changsheng was a talisman master, he would occasionally come to buy talismans from him. I've made an appointment with a few friends to explore an ancient tomb, so I want to buy a few talismans for protection. Xia Long opened his mouth and said, "My shop only has 3 top-grade talismans every month, and they're all pre-ordered. If you want one, I can reserve one for you when the next batch arrives. If you need it urgently, I have a few high-grade talismans on me. Don't know if you'd like to buy them?" Lu Changsheng said, offering an alternative. He had some top-grade talismans he had drawn himself, but he wasn't willing to sell them. After all, his shop only sold 3 top-grade talismans every month. If he sold one more, it might attract unwanted attention. But high-grade talismans were a different story. He had many of those and didn't mind selling a few. "What high-grade talismans do you have?" Xia Long asked. Lu Changsheng listed a few high-grade talismans, and Xia Long bought a lightning-inducing talisman and a 100-mile invisibility talisman. Each talisman cost 50 spirit stones, and Lu Changsheng gave him a discount, selling them for 90 spirit stones. The other party was very pleased and didn't haggle. "Thank you, friend Lu." Xia Long received the talismans, bowed slightly, and left. Exploring ancient tombs? I've never experienced that before. But it's not necessary to experience it. Although the rewards are high, the risks are also great, and one misstep might cost your life. Lu Changsheng looked at Xia Long's departing back, shook his head, and walked into his house. As for exploring ancient tombs, he wasn't interested at all. With the system by his side, he didn't need to take risks like Xia Long. He just needed to live a peaceful life, avoid conflicts, and focus on his family. If he was too ambitious, he might end up falling into a lower realm. Half a month later, The child in Xiaoqing's belly was born. This child didn't have a spirit root either. This made Lu Changsheng sigh. Previously, Xu Zhenjin and Lu Miaoyun's first children had all had spirit roots. This made him have high expectations for the children born to his wives with spirit roots. But now, not a single child born to his wives with spirit roots had a spirit root. This made him feel a bit disappointed. It's okay, it'll happen eventually. After all, this is just a 1 in 10 probability. Lu Changxing took a deep breath, comforting himself. As 2 new babies were born, Lu Changxing also thought about the problem of raising them. In Jiolong Market, raising children wasn't a problem. But when the children grew up, it would be inconvenient. One was that the courtyard was too small, and they couldn't fit everyone. The children would also need a place to play and exercise when they grew up. And when they reached school age, they would need to consider their education. Lu Changxing thought for a moment and decided to send the children back to Qingzhou Mountain when the second elder returned. In Qingzhou Mountain, the environment was good, and there was plenty of space. The children would have many siblings to grow up with, and their relationships would improve. Moreover, in Jiolong Market, children would need to pay a residence fee after turning 6, which was a significant expense. Do cultivators not like having children because of the pressure? Because for cultivators, from 20 to 50 years old, it's their prime, and they're supposed to be brave and ambitious. If they have children during this period, it's an additional burden. Not only do they need to raise and educate their children, but they also need to consider their children's future. Lu Changxing suddenly realized. He felt that if he didn't have Qingzhou Mountain as his backing, raising so many wives and children would be a significant burden. He would probably need to settle down in the mortal world. At this moment, Lu Changxing gained a deeper understanding of the concept of land in the phrase wealth, women, and land. To establish his own cultivation family, he needed to have his own land. Whether it was a few houses in Jiolong Market or a spirit vein like Qingzhou Mountain. In the blink of an eye, more than a month has passed. Lu Changxing's life remained the same. He spent his days cultivating, making talismans, going to work, and occasionally taking his wives and servant girls out for a stroll. After all, these servant girls were pregnant, and going out for a stroll was good for their health. In this month, Lu Miaoyun and Xu Zhenjin also became pregnant with their second and third children. This was also under Lu Changxing's control. It had been half a year since they gave birth, and their bodies had recovered. The only problem was that their cultivation progress had stagnated. Lu Changxing could only make it up to them later. One day, Lu Changxing took his wives and servant girls out for a stroll. "Husband, I want to eat that." "Husband, I think this dress is suitable for little Yun." "Sister Zhenjin, does this dress look good on me?" The wives and servant girls chattered happily. Time is the healer of all things. Now, Xiao Yuyao's dull and lifeless eyes had completely disappeared, and she was much more cheerful. Xiao Yueru had also improved a lot in these few months, and her belly was slightly bulging. She would occasionally touch her belly and smile, revealing a maternal glow. Okay, buy it." Lu Changxing faced his wives and servant girls' requests with a smile. He just needed to not be too extravagant with his spending, and he could save a lot of spirit stones every month. Xiao Yueru looked at Lu Changxing's warm and gentle smile, and her eyes sparkled with a mysterious light. In this world, servant girls were at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Girls like them, who had been abandoned by the White Jade Tower, would usually end up as tools for cultivation, or, even worse, as playthings for men. But Lu Changxing treated them very well, not to mention treating them the same as his wife. They didn't need to worry about their livelihood, and they had spirit rice and sweet meals to eat. They even had someone to care for them, and occasionally, they would receive a simple concern from Lu Changsheng, which would touch their hearts. Just then, Lu Changsheng and his group ran into Yu Maoqing, who was also going home with his wife, Yu Ningrong, and a 16 or 17-year-old girl with a pretty and cute face. Yu Maoqing saw Lu Changsheng surrounded by his wives and servant girls and couldn't help but feel envious. Obviously, both of them were the sons-in-law of the immortal family. Why is the gap so big? Lu Changsheng is a talisman master, but he is also a spiritual chef. Yu Maoqing, was jealous of Lu Changsheng. But he still smiled and nodded to say hello to Lu Changsheng. Husband, do you think it's suitable to marry our niece to Lu Changsheng? Yu Ningrong suddenly asked. Wife, do you want to betroth Xianxia to Lu Changsheng? Yu Maoqing was taken aback, and he replied in a transmission. Xianxia was the daughter of his wife's good friend. Not long ago, both her parents had encountered an accident, leaving only this young girl behind, and they had entrusted her to his wife's care. Today, he had just brought Xianxia to Jiolong Market, preparing to arrange for her to help out in the shop. But unexpectedly, his wife was now wanting to marry Xianxia off to Lu Changsheng. Thinking about Lu Changsheng's numerous wives and concubines, and his wife still wanting to marry Xianxia off to him, made Yu Maoqing's teeth ache. Damn it, you're really going to die. Yu Maoqing cursed in his heart. There's no mistake, Xianxia's personality is weak, and it's hard for her to be independent. In our shop, she can't stay for long, and eventually, she'll need to find a good family to marry into. His wife, Yu Ningrong, said. This Lu Changsheng may have many wives and concubines, but I've interacted with them before, and I feel that he treats his wives and concubines quite well. Even if she becomes a concubine, it's still a good family. Yu Ningrong continued. Yu Maoqing nodded slightly and said, Indeed, I've known Lu Changsheng for a long time, and I feel that he's a good person, aside from being a bit too fond of women and having children. Not only is he a medium-grade talisman master, but his appearance, character, and talent are all top-notch. If we married Xianxia off to him, it'll be a good match, Yu Maoqing said. Moreover, with us around, everyone knows each other, and I'm sure Lu Changsheng won't mistreat Xianxia, Yu Maoqing added. Yu Ningrong nodded slightly, then turned to the young girl beside her and asked, Xianxia, what do you think of that talisman master Lu? Is he the one from next door? Xianxia asked. He looks like a talented person, but a bit of a flirty. Xianxia replied. This talisman master Lu is indeed a flirt. In addition to these wives and maids, there are several other wives and a dozen maids in the family. Yu Ningrong said directly. However, I have been in contact with him a few times and chatted with his wives and concubines several times. I know that although Master Lu is amorous, he treats his wives and concubines very well. You're an orphan, and your mother entrusted you to my care. You'll eventually need to find a good family, and if you're willing, I can go and propose marriage to Lu Changsheng, Yu Ningrong continued. This conversation made Xianxia's eyes widen slightly. Thinking about Lu Changsheng's handsome appearance and his talent as a talisman master, she couldn't help but lower her gaze and her face flushing red. She whispered, It's up to you, auntie. Yu Ningrong smiled, thinking that Lu Changsheng's good looks had already affected her niece. She stroked Xianxia's hair and said, All right, I'll go and propose the marriage. We'll settle this later. The next day, Lu Changsheng was working at the talisman shop when Zhang Shan reported that Yu Maoqing was looking for him. He was a bit puzzled as he went downstairs. Brother Lu, do you want a wife? Yu Maoqing asked directly. Huh? Lu Changsheng was taken aback. What's going on? He already had so many wives. Why would someone ask if he wanted another? Yu Maoqing explained the situation with Xianxia, and Lu Changsheng laughed, saying, All right, send her over. Lu Changsheng had certain requirements for his wives. Firstly, they had to have a spirit root. Secondly, they couldn't have too high of a cultivation level. Thirdly, they had to have a good character. Fourthly, they couldn't come from a powerful family background. Fifthly, they couldn't have any karma or entanglements. As for physical appearance, talent, and being obedient, those were just bonuses. Yu Maoqing's introduction of Xianxia perfectly fit his requirements. She had an 8th-grade spirit root, was at the qi refining 2nd stage, and had a gentle and obedient personality. Not only did she not have a powerful family background, but she was also an orphan with no one to rely on. The only person close to her was Yu Ningrong, Yu Maoqing's wife. Lu Changsheng had also seen Lu Changsheng once before, and although he hadn't taken a close look, he could tell that she was quite talented and had a good appearance. For Lu Changsheng, a woman like this was suitable to be a concubine. You agreed so readily? Yu Maoqing couldn't help but be startled when he saw that Lu Changsheng agreed just after he finished speaking. Why not? Lu Changsheng replied. Don't you need to discuss it with your wife? Yu Maoqing asked. Lu Changsheng said, my wife, Miaoyun, is very understanding and will definitely support me. Damn, you really deserve to die. This is even worse than killing me. Upon hearing this, Yu Maoqing stood up and left. Then he said that he would bring Lu Changsheng to Lu Changsheng's house later to settle the matter. It seems that having friends is indeed beneficial. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. That night, Lu Changsheng returned home from work. Before he could even mention Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoyun brought it up herself. Not only had Yu Maoqing come to discuss it with Lu Changsheng, but Yu Ningrong had also talked to Lu Miaoyun about it. Lu Miaoyun had already seen through Lu Changsheng's intentions and knew that he wanted to take in many wives and concubines. Now that a suitable concubine had been sent to their doorstep, Lu Miaoyun naturally agreed. Good Yuner, marrying you is the greatest fortune of my life, Lu Changsheng said. Just as they were about to eat, Baihe came to notify them that Yu Maoqing and his wife were visiting. Lu Changsheng knew that it was probably about Lu Changsheng and immediately went to greet them. Brother Yu, sister-in-law, Lu Changsheng said as he saw Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong. Behind them was a young girl, Lu Changsheng. She was dressed up, with her black hair styled in a vertical bun, adorned with a blue water butterfly hairpin, and a long string of pearls hanging down. She wore a lake blue dress, and although her figure wasn't exceptional, she had a certain charm. Her almond-shaped eyes were clear and bright, with a hint of shyness. Her goose-egg-shaped face was sweet and lovely, making one want to look at her again and again. Brother Yu, sister-in-law, you haven't eaten yet, right? Let's eat together, Lu Miaoyun said, inviting them in. Then, she looked at Lu Changsheng, who was a bit shy, and said, Is this Xianxia? Yes, sister-in-law, Lu Changsheng replied. Although she called Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong uncle and auntie, she couldn't call Lu Changsheng uncle now. After all, Yu Ningrong had already told her about Lu Changsheng's situation, and she had agreed to it. So, now that she was here, the matter was already settled. Let's go in and eat, Lu Miaoyun said, pulling Lu Changsheng along. Yu Maoqing felt a magical feeling when he saw the scene in front of him. When the three of them arrived at the dining hall, they saw Lu Changsheng's many wives and concubines, and Yu Maoqing couldn't help but stare. They knew that Lu Changsheng had many wives and concubines, but seeing so many women gathered around, all of them happy and content, was truly a shocking sight. However, seeing that they were all eating spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and demonic beast meat, and drinking spirit tea, made them feel more at ease. Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong sat down and ate a few bites, and the matter of Lu Changsheng becoming a concubine was settled. There wasn't much fuss or ceremony. They would just prepare a small banquet at the Jade Feast Pavilion in 2 days, inviting a few friends and neighbors, and the matter would be done. This was all thanks to Lu Miaoyun's efforts. It could be said that Lu Changsheng had taken in his first concubine under Lu Miaoyun's initiative. 3 days later, Lu Changsheng officially moved in. Accompanied by a soft sigh, she officially became Lu Changsheng's concubine. That year, Lu Changsheng was 24 years old. He had 5 wives, 9 concubines, 2 favored ladies, and 15 maidservants. A peaceful and leisurely life always passes quickly. Before you know it, more than a month has gone by. Over the past month, Lu Changsheng has perfectly integrated into Lu Changsheng's family and has successfully become pregnant. This made Yu Maoqing and his wife unable to help but admire Lu Changsheng's efficiency. During a conversation, Yu Maoqing asked Lu Changsheng how he would raise so many children in the future. Although it's true that the poor have their own ways of raising children and the rich have their own ways, If the children have a spirit root, no matter how they are raised, it would be a significant expense. Facing this inquiry, Lu Changsheng responded with a carefree expression, saying that as a talisman master, he also has some savings. He has been setting aside money for the future to cultivate his children. After all, he can endure hardship himself, but he absolutely cannot let his children suffer. When Yu Maching heard Lu Changsheng's words, he suddenly revealed an expression like an old man looking at his phone. He believed that Lu Changsheng won't let his children suffer. But no matter how he looked at it, he couldn't think of Lu Changsheng as the type to suffer himself. He, Yu Maching, has never seen anyone as good at enjoying life as Lu Changsheng. Not only does he have a harem of wives and concubines serving him, but his daily expenses on food, drink, and shopping are also something that made Yu Maching, who only has 10 spirit stones a month, feel envious. But Yu Maching wouldn't ask too many questions about this kind of thing. With the relationship between Lu Changsheng and Lu Changsheng's family, although they have more interactions, it's not like they're a close family. It was enough for them to know that Lu Changsheng was living a good life at Lu Changsheng's house. On this day, Lu Changsheng was drawing a talisman in his spiritual talisman shop. An indescribable mysterious feeling suddenly surged through his whole body. It gave Lu Changsheng a feeling that his spirit root had advanced. From an 8th grade spirit root to a 7th grade spirit root. Have I given birth to a child with a spirit root? Under this excitement, Lu Changsheng suddenly let out a loud scream, his face filled with joy. As a result, the talisman he was making failed, and the talisman paper emitted blue smoke. Lu Changsheng didn't mind, and after feeling it for a moment, he shook his head and said, "No, this is not the feeling of a child's spirit root adding to my own. It is just a natural, gradual improvement that allows my spirit root to advance from the 8th level to the 7th level. That's right, my 4 children's spirit roots are still developing, so it's the same for my spirit root. With the previous additions, my spirit root was already close to the 8th level, and now, with the continuous growth, it has naturally advanced to a 7th level spirit root." Lu Changsheng immediately understood what was happening. At that time, he actually had 2 women in Qingdu Mountain who were pregnant, and their children were about to be born at that time. However, he could sense that he hadn't received any additional spirit root enhancement. There was only a deep sense that his spirit root had evolved. 7th grade spirit root. I've finally advanced to a 7th grade spirit root. If I take another step forward, I'll be a medium grade spirit root immortal seedling. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and his face was filled with joy. Spirit root was related to a person's cultivation foundation. For Lu Changsheng, spirit root wasn't just related to his cultivation foundation. It was also connected to the quality of his future children's spirit roots. After all, the quality of a parent's spirit root could influence the quality of their children's spirit roots. The better his spirit root, the better his future children's spirit roots would be. Although he was working hard to improve the quality of his children's mothers, how could he, as the father, fall behind? If I continue like this, the later-born children will not only have better environmental conditions, but also stand on the shoulders of their older siblings, with an even higher upper limit. Lu Changsheng couldn't help but sigh. He felt that if he continued to cultivate like this, in the future he might be able to produce a family of high-grade spirit roots, or even heavenly spirit roots. He immediately tried to experience the cultivation speed of his 7th grade spirit root. However, the silent and gradual progress of his spirit root made him feel that there wasn't much difference from before. The 8th grade spirit root and the 7th grade spirit root are both low-grade spirit roots, and this advancement doesn't have any significant changes. It is estimated that there will be a significant improvement from a low-grade spirit root to a mid-grade spirit root. I don't know how much help my spirit root, which has advanced from 8th to 7th grade, will be in breaking the bottleneck of the middle to late stages of qi refinement. Lu Changsheng shook his head slightly and looked at his piltian, which was like a sticky, flowing spiritual energy. He sat in meditation and cultivated for 2 hours every day. But his cultivation had stagnated, and he had made no progress. All he could do was to gradually grind and wait for the opportunity to break through. However, if he really wanted to break through, Lu Changsheng had inquired about it. The advanced level breaking pill, which cost 1,200 spirit stones, could help him break through the middle stage of qi refinement and enter the later stage. He only needed to save for 1 year, and he would be able to afford it. But Lu Changsheng didn't think it was necessary. He didn't go out, didn't fight with others, and didn't go on any adventures or explorations. With so many talisman scripts by his side, his cultivation was almost sufficient, and there was no need to rush. Taking some yellow dragon pills to aid his cultivation was enough. Those breakthrough pills were still unnecessary, and they would affect his future foundation. Xianxia is about to give birth, and I wonder if this child has a spirit root. Lu Changsheng slightly relaxed his muscles, looking out the window at the vast, clear blue sky, and a few expectations arose in his heart. He had already become quite open-minded about his wives giving birth to children without spirit roots. But for those with spirit roots, he still had some expectations, and his heart couldn't help but feel a few emotions. 10 days later, Lu Changsheng discovered that his 2 servant girls were pregnant. The 4 servant girls he had previously purchased had only one left who wasn't pregnant. But Lu Changsheng didn't mind, and he wasn't in a hurry to replenish them. After all, there was only one big stick. Now that he had so many ordinary servant girls, he would just save up and increase the number of high-quality servant girls. Moreover, Lu Miaoyun was still in Jiolong Market. Out of respect for his wife, Lu Changsheng would still slightly restrain himself. At least until next month, when Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin returned to Qingyu Mountain, he would go to White Jade Tower to take a stroll. 6 days later. On this day, Lu Changsheng didn't go to the spiritual talisman shop and just sat at home. Because Xianxia's child was about to be born. Wow! As a crying sound echoed out, Lu Changsheng felt a profound, mysterious sensation. It was the sensation of a spirit root. The child had a spirit root, and its enhancement was affecting him. At the same time, a system prompt tone sounded. Congratulations to the host for giving birth to 5 children with spiritual roots. You will get a chance to draw a lottery. This sensation and the system prompt tone made Lu Changsheng's heart extremely joyful and excited. However, as his mood gradually improved, he didn't show excessive excitement. His face only revealed a faint, gentle smile, appearing warm and refined, like a spring breeze. He and Lu Miaoyun walked into the room. "It's a young lady, sir," the midwife said with a smile. "Good, you've worked hard," Lu Changsheng said and handed over a spirit stone. This midwife was invited from Jiolong Market, and she had helped with the previous 2 births as well. He felt that in the future, he would need to hire a permanent midwife to stay at home. Although his wives had spirit rice to nourish their bodies and wouldn't have any problems with childbirth, this measure was necessary to ensure absolute safety. "Thank you, Lord Lu. Thank you, Madam Lu." The midwife took the spirit stone with a smile like a chrysanthemum. Lu Changsheng picked up the baby. It was a very lovely baby. Knowing that the child had a spirit root, Lu Changsheng's heart couldn't help but feel a few more emotions, and the more he looked, the more adorable he felt. This scene also made Xianxia reveal a happy smile. When she knew she had given birth to a daughter, she had a slight feeling of loss. She was afraid that Lu Changsheng might not like it. After all, in this world, there were still many people who valued boys over girls. But seeing Lu Changsheng smile, she felt much more at ease. After the child was born, Lu Changsheng didn't hurry to leave and draw a prize. He still accompanied Xianxia and his wives, chatting and talking. It wasn't until the afternoon that he said he would go to the shop to take a look. After arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng went straight to the third floor and began the part he was most looking forward to. System, I want to draw a prize, Lu Changsheng thought to himself. Immediately, a pale red system prize wheel appeared. I don't know what I'll get this time. If it's not a cultivation method, another magical treasure would be fine too. Looking at the prize wheel, Lu Changsheng's heart was filled with anticipation. After all, the black dragon magic bead had greatly helped his cultivation. If he could obtain a magical treasure that would allow him to cultivate all 4 limbs, it would be like flying. Lu Changsheng didn't think too much and directly said, "Start the draw." Immediately, the golden light on the roulette wheel began to rotate. Under Lu Changsheng's expectant gaze, the golden light slowly stopped on the treasure section of the prize wheel. Ding! Congratulations, host, on obtaining a rare treasure, the demonic curse of fate. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can view it at any time. A dark, mysterious scroll with strange flower patterns appeared, accompanied by the system prompt tone. Rare treasure, demonic curse of fate? Lu Changsheng looked at the reward he had drawn, feeling a bit surprised and unsure what it was. He immediately looked towards the system space. Let's see what this demonic curse of fate was. Demonic curse of fate. Grade, 3 RD grade. Description: an ancient witch tribe's artifact, refined with heavenly and earthly demonic energy. As long as you gaze at the script and think of someone, you can curse them remotely. On the 49th day, the cursed person's flesh and soul will be bound, and they will eventually die from withering flesh and extinguished soul. The description of the demonic curse of fate's effects appeared. Is this a curse-type treasure? Lu Changsheng looked at the demonic curse of fate, and his heart immediately understood what it was. It wasn't a spiritual treasure, but its effects were similar to those of spiritual treasures, belonging to the category of rare and unusual treasures. This rare treasure looked very powerful, but Lu Changsheng was clear that, as a third-grade treasure, it could only curse up to the core formation stage. Moreover, treasures like this would certainly have limitations and side effects. He directly retrieved the demonic curse of fate. Let's see the detailed introduction of this rare treasure. Immediately, a dark, thick book with no words, only faint black patterns, appeared before Lu Changsheng. The patterns in the book seemed like threads of demonic energy, slowly flowing, giving off an eerie feeling. As the demonic curse of fate was retrieved, Lu Changsheng's mind also received additional information. The detailed introduction of this rare treasure. It was just as he had guessed. The demonic curse of fate looked powerful, but ultimately, it was just a third-grade treasure with limited effects. Firstly, this demonic curse of fate was a one-time use treasure. Once used, it would be gone. Then, it could only curse up to the core formation stage. Moreover, there were side effects. Cursing others would require him to pay a price. He would lose lifespan, and his energy and blood would wither, requiring him to calm his mind and recover. Cursing a chi refining period cultivator would reduce his lifespan by 1 to 3 years. Cursing a foundation establishment stage cultivator would reduce his lifespan by 10 to 30 years. Cursing a core formation stage cultivator would reduce his lifespan by over 100 years. As for the nascent soul true lord, although it's impossible to curse them to death, if one wanted to, they could still make the opponent feel uneasy, causing them to be plagued by demonic energy, leading to their physical body's decline and their spirits withering. As for the cost, it depends on one's own cultivation, strength, and lifespan. If one doesn't have the strength of a nascent soul stage cultivator, Doing so would basically lead to their physical body's decline, their spirit's extinction, and ultimately, their death. This demonic curse of fate scripture, how can I put it into words? Lu Changsheng looked at the demonic curse of fate in front of him, which resembled a framed portrait, and clicked his tongue, unsure of how to describe it. Its power was undeniable. As long as one silently observed their target, they could cast a curse from a distance, ignoring the distance between them. Unlike some curses he had seen in books or heard about, which required collecting the target's hair, blood, or used items, and so on. In other words, even at his qi refining stage, he could curse a foundation establishment cultivator to death just by looking at them once. If he were to risk his life, although he might not be able to curse a nascent soul true lord to death, he could still make them suffer from demonic energy, leading to their physical body's decline, their spirits withering, and a significant loss of strength, making it difficult for them to make progress in their cultivation. But in Lu Changsheng's opinion, the cost was too great and not worth it. After all, a qi refining stage cultivator's lifespan was only around 100 years or so. If he were to curse a foundation establishment stage cultivator, he would have to reduce his lifespan by 20 to 30 years. Moreover, it wouldn't just reduce his lifespan. His qi and blood would also decline, affecting his strength and cultivation, not to mention his ability to have children. However, this treasure doesn't have an owner, and its use isn't restricted to anyone. If I'm willing, I can give it to someone else and let them reduce their lifespan to help me curse someone. But who would be willing to take such a risk? It's too pilgerous. So, I'll keep this treasure as a hidden trump card, and I will only use it when absolutely necessary. Lu Changsheng looked at the demonic curse scripture in his hand, shook his head slightly, and put it away in his storage bag. He decided that if some foundation establishment stage cultivator were to provoke him in the future, he would carve their portrait onto this demonic curse scripture. As for nascent soul cultivators, that would be a mutual destruction. It was not worth it. After completing the lottery, Lu Changsheng suddenly felt a sense of disappointment. He then sat down to meditate and cultivate, checking how much his daughter's spirit root had enhanced his cultivation. After a long while, through his experience, Lu Changsheng felt that the enhancement was less than 10%. He estimated that his daughter's spirit root was at most an 8th-grade spirit root. However, Lu Changsheng was still very satisfied with this. At this stage, having a spirit root was enough. What more could he ask for? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lu Changsheng believed that as long as he worked hard, his natural talent would eventually surpass that of others, reaching an unprecedented level. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. On this day, the second elder came to visit Lu Changsheng's home again. After casually strolling around, he mentioned that he would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain in half a month. He asked Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoyun, and others if they wanted to return with him at that time. Lu Changsheng naturally expressed his desire to return. Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin also expressed their intention to return to Qingzhou Mountain to nurture their pregnancies, allowing their other sisters to come over. Originally, Lu Changsheng had planned to send Guan Xian to Qingzhou Mountain for cultivation and bring the other children along. However, due to the limited seating on the flying boat, with only 3 available spots, he had to give up on the idea. Lu Changsheng also asked the second elder if it was safe for infants to ride the flying boat. He was planning to send the 3 children back to Qingzhou Mountain to be nurtured. The second elder replied that there wouldn't be any major issues, but Lu Changsheng should still purchase a few warm-yang jade stones. These warm-yang jade stones were a type of spiritual jade that could isolate cold air and nourish the physical body. With these, the infants wouldn't catch a cold on the flying boat and would sleep more soundly. After the second elder finished speaking, he chatted for a while before leaving with a smile. He didn't come just to notify Lu Changsheng about returning to Qingzhou Mountain. Would the second elder of the Lu family personally come for such a trivial matter? His main purpose was to observe whether Lu Changsheng had stopped his crazy behavior of taking in concubines and buying servant girls, indulging in sensual pleasures, after the fourth elder's advice. Through this observation, Lu Changsheng's performance was still satisfactory. Although he still had many children, it was much better than before. Lu Miaoyun also told him that Lu Changsheng had only taken in one small concubine and one servant girl in the past half-year, which made him very happy. He felt that the effect of the fourth elder's advice was still quite good. In preparation for their return in half a month, the next day, Lu Changsheng took Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenjin, and the other women to stroll around the streets. They were preparing to buy some gifts to bring back. During the process, Lu Changsheng saw that the warm young jade stones mentioned by the second elder were quite affordable, only 2 spirit stones per piece. He directly purchased 35 pieces. After all, as a father, how could he be partial to some children? Even if he had a slight preference for certain children, he would still try to be fair in such small matters. So, with 35 children, he would directly buy 35 sets, 1 for each. Later, Lu Changsheng strolled around the market again, inquiring about the price of the rejuvenation pill medicine. His wives had accompanied him for so many years, giving birth to so many children, so he naturally had to give them some valuable gifts. Among them, the best was naturally the rejuvenation pill. It had the effect of eternal youth. However, the rejuvenation pill was a second-grade pill, and its price was extremely high. There were 2 types of first-grade pill that could preserve one's appearance: the fixation pill and the nourishment pill. The fixation pill could fix one's appearance, but it would still change gradually after about 10 years. Its price was 100 spirit stones. The nourishment pill had the effect of nourishing and preserving one's appearance. It was a multi-benefit pill, and taking one every 3 years or so could also have the effect of the rejuvenation pill. Its price was 20 spirit stones per piece. Lu Changsheng thought for a moment and directly purchased 16 nourishment pill elixirs. He gave 1 to each of his current wives. The total cost was 320 spirit stones, but the shopkeeper gave him a discount of 20 spirit stones, so he ended up paying 300 spirit stones. It was only at this time that Lu Changsheng felt that raising so many wives and children was not easy. 10 days later, Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoyun, and Chu Zhenjin, each holding a baby, went to the East District's large courtyard to prepare to return to Qingzhou Mountain with the second elder. The 3 Lu family juniors who were accompanying them were all Lu Miaoyun's cousins. 2 of them had also been with them on the previous trip. They saw that Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin were still doing well before they left. This time, not only were their bellies slightly bulging, but they were also each holding a baby. They couldn't help but be shocked. Later, they asked Lu Changsheng what was going on, where the children came from. Facing such questions, Lu Changsheng didn't hide the truth. He directly said that he had taken in a few small concubines and bought some servant girls. The 3 children were recently born and were being brought back to Qingzhou Mountain to be nurtured. Upon hearing this, the 3 of them couldn't help but look at each other in shock. As Lu family juniors, they naturally knew about Lu Changsheng's reputation in Qingzhou Mountain. He was good at producing children. But they didn't expect that Lu Changsheng would be so unstoppable, having children wherever he went. Especially Lu Miaoyun's cousin, who asked Lu Changsheng how many children he had now. Lu Changsheng replied that he had 35 children, and 14 more were on the way, which left the 3 of them stunned. Even the second elder, who was driving the flying boat, couldn't help but twitch his mouth and look shocked. They thought back to when the Lu family had taken in a son-in-law. The requirement was to have 50 children in 20 years. But now, in just over 6 years, Lu Changsheng already had 49 children. 2 days later, a flying boat landed outside Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Changsheng with his family of 6 and a few elders stepped out of the flying boat and entered Qingzhou Mountain. As they walked, people saw Lu Changsheng holding a child, and Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin's with slightly protruding bellies were also holding infants. This sparked curiosity and whispers among the onlookers. Why did Lu Changsheng and Sister Miaoyun come back with a child? It must be their own child. I remember they didn't bring any children when they left. Didn't Lu Changsheng go to the city to manage his shop? Could it be that he had children outside and brought them back? That's too incredible. Can he really give birth wherever he goes? You're not unaware, are you? Lu Changsheng really loves having children. Just look at Sister Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin. They're both pregnant again. Good grief, when it comes to having children, I only acknowledge Lu Changsheng's expertise. If only Patriarch had recruited more immortal seedlings like Lu Changsheng, I wonder how much bloodline would have been added to the Lu family. Many young Lu family members discussed and laughed. Damn it, why does he work so hard when he doesn't even need to have 50 children? It's clear he genuinely loves having children from the bottom of his heart. I still need 38 more children. Do you think if I asked Lu Changsheng to help me, he would agree? A few immortal seedlings whispered to each other as they watched the scene. As for the curiosity and gossip of others, Lu Changsheng was unaware and wouldn't have cared even if he knew. After all, it wasn't like they were saying anything bad, and he genuinely loved having children. After returning home, Lu Changsheng settled the 3 infants. He went to take a look at his 33rd and 34th children. Although the infants looked similar, and having so many children didn't seem to make a difference. But as a father, he had to take a look at his children when he got home. Later, Lu Changsheng handed out nourishment pills and some gifts to his wives. Thank you, husband. This thing is too precious. It costs me a lot of money. Thank you, Sister Miaoyun. The wives saw the gifts and heard about the effects of the nourishment pill, and they were all extremely surprised and moved, their faces filled with emotion. They never expected Lu Changsheng to give them such precious elixirs. To them, this was equivalent to a divine pill. Some of the wives were so moved that they directly burst into tears. These wives, who were the first batch to marry Lu Changsheng, were all ordinary women from the Lu family. When they married Lu Changsheng, it was simply because of the Lu family's reward and the desire to contribute to the family. At most, they had a few thoughts about relying on their children's success, hoping to give birth to children with a spirit root. As for Lu Changsheng, their husband, they didn't have many expectations. They never thought that Lu Changsheng would go from being a humble son-in-law to reaching this point, letting them, his wives, also rise in status alongside him. They were living a life that was previously unimaginable. Now that Lu Changsheng had reached this point, they began to feel a little inferior, knowing they didn't deserve him. But Lu Changsheng's attitude towards them remained unchanged. He still gave them such precious gifts, naturally moving them to tears. They felt that choosing to marry Lu Changsheng was the most correct decision in their lives. Why are you still crying? Lu Changsheng didn't expect that his gift would move them to tears, and he immediately comforted them. Husband, you're too good to me, making me too emotional and happy. Lu Yuzhu said, her face filled with emotion. You're my wife, who else would I be good to? This is just the beginning. In the future, our family's conditions will get better and better, and your lives, as well as the children's, will also get better and better. Lu Changsheng gently wiped away her tears and said softly. Although these wives couldn't be considered his favorite, Lu Changsheng wasn't the kind of person who would forget his old loves once he got new ones. It was still the same principle. Benefits were benefits. Since they had all become his wives and the mothers of his children, Lu Changsheng would take on the responsibilities that came with it. As soon as Lu Changsheng said this, the other wives were also moved to tears. Even Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, who were standing aside, were deeply moved. After all, this world was essentially a feudal society where the strong preyed on the weak. Although Lu Changsheng had many wives, his behavior and actions were still considered respectful towards women, making him a good man. After comforting one of his wives, Lu Changsheng had the children who could walk line up and distributed gifts to each of them. Thank you, father. Thank you, father. The little children were overjoyed when they saw the gifts and treats. As for the ones who were too young to walk or talk, still in their infancy, Lu Changsheng directly turned the nourishment pill into a pendant and hung it around their necks. After finishing all these things, Lu Changsheng looked at his wives and children, their faces filled with joy and happiness, and he couldn't help but smile, feeling extremely satisfied and content. What more could he ask for in life? In the midst of this intense emotional fulfillment, Lu Changsheng suddenly felt a slight tremble in his dantian. The bottleneck in his qi refining 6th-stage cultivation had finally shown a slight loosening. Lu Changsheng was immediately overjoyed. He realized that the opportunity to break through to the later stages of qi refining had finally arrived. He quickly bid farewell to his wives and rushed to his practice room, beginning his attempt to break through to the later stages of qi refining. Lu Changsheng took out a bottle of qi refining powder from his storage bag and poured it into his mouth. He then grasped 2 spirit stones, closed his eyes, and began to circulate his inner energy, attempting to break through to the 7th stage of qi refining. The qi refining powder entered his abdomen, causing the spiritual energy in his dantian to surge like a boiling creek, releasing a faint, gentle pressure around his body. Lu Changsheng used his inner energy to guide the spiritual power in his dantian, allowing it to flow through his meridians and form a complete circuit, causing his entire body to surge with energy and his spiritual pressure to increase. He didn't know how much time had passed. Boom! Lu Changsheng's entire body suddenly shook, and a formless, invisible energy spread out from him. In that moment, he felt as if he was floating, and his entire body became light and transparent. He had successfully reached the 7th stage of qi refining. He suppressed the excitement and joy in his heart, slowly calming down the turbulent spiritual energy in his meridians. After a long time, his breathing stabilized. "I've finally entered the later stages of qi refining." Lu Changsheng opened his eyes, his gaze shining with joy. Reaching the 7th stage of qi refining meant that he had entered the later stages of qi refining. This level of cultivation was extremely rare, even in the entire Lu family. Only Lu Yuanding and the older generation of Lu family elders had reached this level of cultivation. Among his peers, Lu Changsheng only knew of Lu Myoga. He estimated that there were only a few other Lu family disciples who had reached this level. The path of cultivation is vast and complex, and it's not just about bitter practice and training. Different people have different paths. Some people focus on closed-door cultivation. Some people go out to gain experience and break through in the midst of life and death, and some people seek enlightenment in the midst of worldly chaos. And I'm similar to that today. Ultimately, the bottleneck in cultivation is not just about cultivation itself, but also about seeking a breakthrough in one's mentality and spiritual realm. In that moment, Lu Changsheng also gained some insight. When he read books, he had seen many sayings about the path of cultivation. But these things seemed abstract and intangible when he read or heard about them. However, just now, when he saw his wives' and children's happy faces, he couldn't help but have a breakthrough in his mentality, feeling spiritually fulfilled, which led to the loosening of the bottleneck in his 6th stage of qi refining. The bottleneck and breakthrough opportunity seemed abstract and intangible. But in this world, they were real and existed. Just like the heart demons, karma, and fate that were commonly seen in the cultivation world. Lu Changsheng didn't think too much about it and closed his eyes again, quietly feeling the changes after the breakthrough. The spiritual energy flowing through his meridians was not only more abundant, but also more refined. In his dantian, the previously tangled and knotted spiritual energy had formed a small lake. This was Dan Lake, a symbol of the later stages of qi refining, where the spiritual energy condensed into a lake. When one reached the peak of qi refining, the Dan Lake would become a true sea, supporting the Tao platform, and they could completely shed their mortal body, establish their foundation, and become a foundation establishment cultivator. Reaching the 7th stage of qi refining not only increases my spiritual energy several times, but also elevates my mental state. Lu Changsheng felt that he not only had more energy and was lighter, but his consciousness and thinking were also clearer. This was the spiritual state of a person. Breaking through the foundation establishment stage had 3 major hurdles. The last hurdle was the transformation of the mind and spirit, giving birth to a divine sense. This would allow him to project his spirit externally. It would be extremely beneficial for cultivation, combat, and other matters. With my current cultivation level, I can also try to create a 2nd-grade talisman. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. When he was at the 6th stage of qi refining, as long as he had the materials, he could create a top-grade talisman. Now that he had broken through the bottleneck and become a 7th-stage qi refining cultivator, his mental and spiritual powers had greatly increased. This gave him the confidence to create a 2nd-grade talisman with a 70 to 80% chance of success. However, the materials for a 2nd-grade talisman are not only expensive but also rare, unlike the 1st-grade talisman paper and spiritual ink that can be easily bought. And if I want to create a 2nd-grade talisman, my current medium-grade talisman pen is clearly not enough. I need at least a 1st-grade extreme-quality talisman pen. Lu Changsheng shook his head again. He knew that he still lacked the most important thing to create a 2nd-grade talisman. Money. Without thinking too much, he stood up, flung his sleeve, and smiled faintly, breaking through to the 7th stage of qi refining in less than 7 years. Not bad. It's not in vain that I've been working hard for so many years. Lu Changsheng nodded in satisfaction, wanting to walk out of the practice room. However, just as he was about to open the door, Lu Changsheng's footsteps halted. He reconfirmed that his spiritual energy and aura were completely concealed by the spiritual weapons and the jade pendant given to him by the colorful-robed woman. After all, he was still considered to be at the 4th stage of qi refining to the outside world. Now that he had broken through, it would be at most considered the 5th stage of qi refining. If he were to reveal his 7th stage of qi refining, it would be impossible to explain. After confirming that everything was okay, Lu Changsheng opened the door and walked out of the practice room. Outside the small courtyard, all his wives were waiting for him. Earlier, Lu Changsheng had said that he had a feeling and was about to break through, so they had all come to wait for him. They hoped to see their husband's joyful expression as soon as he broke through and share in his happiness. Husband! 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 The women's gazes all converged on Lu Changsheng, calling out to him in unison. Seeing the scene before him, the women's eyes were filled with love, admiration, and concern. Lu Changsheng smiled lightly and said, "Hee, it's just a small step forward in my cultivation." Lu Changsheng's face was handsome, and he spoke with a calm and composed tone. "Congratulations, husband, on breaking through to the 5th stage of qi refining." Seeing Lu Changsheng's demeanor, Lu Miaoyun's face immediately lit up with joy, and she was the first to congratulate him. Congratulations to the husband on his breakthrough. Congratulations to the husband on taking another step forward on the path of immortality. Congratulations to father. Congratulations to father. Father is truly amazing. The other wives and concubines followed Lu Miaoyun's lead, clasping their hands together in respect and teaching their children to congratulate Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng saw this and couldn't help but laugh loudly, saying, "Good, good, good. Today I broke through to the 5th stage of qi refining, and we must celebrate properly." That night, the entire Qingzhou mountain was shrouded in darkness and silence. Only the Lu Changsheng's residence in Qingzhou Valley was brightly lit, with his wives and concubines celebrating his breakthrough. The next day, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyun went out to pay their respects to the 4th elder. After all, they had to go and pay their respects to this elderly lady. When they arrived at the 4th elder's residence, they coincidentally ran into the 2nd elder, who was just leaving. "Second grandfather. 2nd elder." Lu Changsheng smiled and clasped his hands together in respect. In his heart, he couldn't help but think, "I hope this 2nd elder isn't a troublemaker." Considering his situation at Jiolong Market, he would definitely come and tell the fourth elder all about it as soon as he returned to Qingju Mountain. Fortunately, he, Lu Changsheng, was a straightforward and upright person, and he wasn't afraid of others gossiping behind his back. Changxing, Yuner, you're here. The fourth elder saw Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyun arrive, and a kind smile appeared on her face. After chatting with them for a bit, she began to examine Lu Changsheng's talisman crafting skills. In terms of talisman crafting, Lu Changsheng's performance was similar to the last time he returned. He had already mastered the Ice Frost talisman, and another medium-grade talisman was just beginning to take shape. With the previous performance and the reason for having a spiritual body, the fourth elder's acceptance of Lu Changsheng's progress had also increased significantly. She saw that Lu Changsheng's progress in the past half-year was similar to the previous 4 months. In her heart, she couldn't help but think that Lu Changsheng's progress this time was not as good as before, and wondered if it was because he had fewer opportunities to cultivate with his wives in the past half-year. But as an elder, she couldn't ask such questions. It was impossible to say, Changxing, if your body can handle it, it's okay to cultivate with your wives more often, and I'll help you explain it to Yuner. Not bad, not bad. Changxing, if you continue like this, I'm afraid it will take at most a year for you to become a high-grade talisman master. The fourth elder said with a delighted and relieved expression. I will definitely work hard, fourth elder. Lu Changsheng said so. He himself had planned to do so. He was preparing to showcase his high-grade talisman master skills in about a year, which was almost a year ahead of his original plan. After all, having a spiritual body had boosted his speed, and it was considered normal. Changxing, you must still work hard in your cultivation and not slack off. Although the fourth stage of qi refining can create high-grade talismans, it's still a bit strenuous, so it's best to break through to the fifth stage of qi refining as soon as possible. The fourth elder looked at Lu Changsheng's cultivation and spiritual energy. But she discovered that his spiritual energy was concealed, and she didn't notice it at first glance. She didn't pay much attention to it either. She knew that there must be some treasure hiding his spiritual energy aura. After all, it was normal to have such things when one was outside. Grandma, Changxing just broke through to the fifth stage of qi refining yesterday. Lu Changsheng heard this and knew that the fourth elder hadn't noticed his cultivation due to the jade pendant given by the colorful robed woman, so he calmly said, I broke through to the fifth stage of qi refining yesterday. It wasn't easy to hide this, and there was nothing to hide. A 9th-grade spirit root, breaking through from the 4th stage of qi refining to the 5th stage in a year and 8 months, was indeed a bit exaggerated. But it was barely acceptable. What? You've already broken through to the 5th stage of qi refining? The fourth elder was surprised to hear this. After all, Lu Changsheng wasn't just a 9th-grade spirit root. He had also spent a lot of time and energy on crafting talismans, managing the shop, and dealing with relationships. So, in this situation, breaking through to the 5th stage of qi refining at this speed was indeed surprising. Yes, Grandma. I know my talent is mediocre, so I've never slacked off in my cultivation. I've also crafted some talismans and sold them to a good friend, and I've put some up for sale at the Spirit Talisman shop. I've used the spirit stones I earned to buy resources for my cultivation. Lu Changsheng opened up and told the fourth elder about his dealings with Hong Yi and selling talismans at the Spirit Talisman shop. After all, he hadn't intended to hide these things from the Lu family, and he wasn't afraid of them knowing. Good, good. I'm relieved to know you haven't fallen behind in your cultivation. These are all small matters, you just need to keep them in mind, and if you have any questions about your cultivation, you can come and ask me. If you need any help, just let me know. The fourth elder said with a relieved expression. In her heart, she suspected that Lu Changsheng's spiritual body might have also contributed to his cultivation speed. But this speed wasn't too surprising, and she didn't ask too many questions. After all, in the world of cultivation, everyone had their own secrets, and there was no need to pry too deeply. She then began to instruct Lu Changsheng on crafting talismans. Teaching Lu Changsheng how to craft talismans was also a kind of enjoyment for her. After all, teaching a disciple was a very fulfilling and rewarding experience. Especially when thinking about the future, the idea of cultivating a second-grade talisman master made her even more fond of Lu Changsheng. Before he knew it, 3 days had passed. Lu Changsheng followed the second elder back to Jiolong Market. Originally, he had planned to bring Lu Lanshu or Lu Qinger, Lu Zier, and their sisters to Jiolong Market. However, the women expressed that they wanted to stay at home with their children, as there were only 3 months left until the spirit root testing ceremony. When Lu Changsheng heard this, he didn't force the issue. Instead, he brought 2 other wives to Jiolong Market. "Brother Lu, how many wives do you have?" After arriving at Jiolong Market, Yu Maocheng saw Lu Changsheng bringing 2 more unfamiliar women and couldn't help but ask. "Not many, just 5 wives, 9 concubines, 2 favored ladies, and 15 maidservants." Lu Changsheng replied. "What the hell, am I really that poor?" Yu Maocheng asked himself why he had asked such a question, and directly slapped himself twice. "Brother Yu, don't do that, don't do that." Lu Changsheng quickly pulled him back. After returning home, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. He felt that he still wanted to be friends with Yu Maocheng, but they should avoid talking about this topic. Later, he counted the spirit stones he had left. There were a total of 205 spirit stones. I'm so poor." Lu Changsheng let out a deep sigh. His daily expenses were already quite high every month. Adding to that, he had spent a lot of money buying gifts for his wives and children recently, so he hadn't been able to save any money. "It seems that I can only go to the White Jade Tower later. As for the second-grade talisman, I can only put it on hold for now." Lu Changsheng looked at the few spirit stones he had and could only temporarily give up on going to the White Jade Tower and crafting a second-grade talisman. Before he knew it, half a month had passed. The last of the 4 maidservants Lu Changsheng had previously purchased had also successfully become pregnant. This brought the total number of Lu Changsheng's children to 50. "The Lu family is indeed a noble family. They required me to have 50 children, and they gave me 20 years to do so." Lu Changsheng thought about how he had completed the Lu family's requirement in just over 6 years and couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. It was a pity that he was no longer a breeding son-in-law of the Lu family. If he were, Lu Yuanding, the patriarch of the Lu family, would definitely have publicly praised him. Another month passed. Lu Changsheng's 36th, 37th, 38th, and 39th children were born. "I wonder if there's a reward for having 40 children?" Lu Changsheng felt a sense of anticipation in his heart for the next child who was about to be born. 9 days later, when the 40th child was born, a system prompt sounded. Is that true?" Lu Changsheng heard the system's prompt tone and suddenly felt a surge of excitement in his heart. In his dull and flavorless daily life, only giving birth to children and the system's lottery draws could stir up some waves in his heart. "Will the system give me a bonus every time I have 10 kids?" Lu Changsheng couldn't help but think to himself. "System, I want to draw a lottery." He didn't overthink it. After all, the more you guess, the more you'll have expectations. And with expectations come disappointments. Looking at the lottery wheel that appeared before his eyes, Lu Changsheng's spirit stirred slightly. "Start the draw." Immediately, the lottery wheel began to spin with a golden light. Under Lu Changsheng's gaze, the golden light finally stopped at the technique section. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the second-order puppetry technique. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can view it at any time." A light sphere in the shape of a puppet emerged from the large wheel, accompanied by the system's voice. "Second-order puppetry technique?" Lu Changsheng raised an eyebrow when he saw the technique he had drawn. Puppetry was a relatively niche technique among the 100 arts of cultivation. Although it couldn't compare to the 4 major techniques of formation, alchemy, artifact refining, and talisman crafting. But relatively speaking, it was still a pretty good skill. As long as he mastered it, his life wouldn't be bad. Or rather, as long as he mastered any one of the 100 arts of cultivation, he wouldn't be bad off. Even if it was a technique like spirit planting, butchery, medicine, or breeding, as long as he was skilled and worked hard, his life would become sweeter and sweeter. Lu Changsheng's spirit stirred slightly as he looked at the light sphere in the system space. "Second-order puppetry technique. Upon use, you can directly comprehend the second-order full-level puppetry technique and the corresponding puppetry compendium. Indeed, just like the talisman crafting technique I obtained earlier, I can directly acquire the second-order full-level puppetry technique, which means I can refine puppets comparable to the peak of the foundation establishment stage. With this puppetry technique, I'll not only be able to use talisman, but also puppetry in the future. If I have a few second-order puppets on me, my safety will be guaranteed in the future. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly as he read the description, feeling very satisfied. He thought this technique was pretty good, quite likable, and suitable for himself. Or rather, he thought all the 100 arts of cultivation were pretty good. After all, having many skills wasn't a bad thing. The more skills he had, the better. Even if he couldn't use them temporarily, he could teach them to his children or pass them on to others when he established his cultivation family in the future. Lu Changsheng had already thought it through. If he established a cultivation family, it would be just like now. No conflicts, no struggles, just building relationships and making money through cultivation. The entire family would rely on technique after technique to earn money and cultivate peacefully. Right away, Lu Changsheng used the second-order puppetry technique in the system space. In an instant, a surge of knowledge information flooded into his brain. Introduction to Puppetry. Basic Puppet Encyclopedia. First-order Puppet Encyclopedia. Second-order Puppet Encyclopedia. I can make puppets with my bare hands. How puppets are made. My affairs with puppets. After a long while, a heap of knowledge information related to puppets flooded into Lu Changsheng's brain. About identifying materials for making puppets. How to turn the skeletons of demonic beasts and fierce beasts into puppets. Puppet array inscriptions, spiritual access control, and so on. Whoa. As expected of the system, even if I have experienced it once before, this feeling is still mysterious. Lu Changsheng exhaled and looked at his hands. Not only had his brain gained a heap of puppet-related knowledge, he also felt like his hands had manufactured, assembled, polished, and refined puppets for decades. If he had a pile of materials right now, he could perform a bare-handed puppet-making demonstration on the spot. However, this puppetry technique seems not as good as I imagined. Lu Changsheng furrowed his brow slightly after absorbing the second-order puppetry technique. According to his understanding of puppet manufacturing in his brain, he discovered that making puppets had several major problems. It consumed time. It consumed wealth. Even though he has second-level puppet skills and is a second-level puppet master. Even with ready-made materials, wanting to create a single ordinary first-order low-level puppet would take at least 2 to 3 days, or even longer. And a first-order medium-level puppet would take at least 7 to 8 days, or even 10 days to half a month. As for a first-order high-level puppet, it would take even longer, basically 10 days to half a month or more. Usually, he had to cultivate, make talismans, accompany his wives, and have children. Lu Changsheng clearly knew that he didn't have that much time and energy to mass-produce puppets. Moreover, the cost of materials needed to manufacture puppets was very high. Lu Changsheng made a rough estimate. A single ordinary first-order low-level puppet would require at least 20 to 30 spirit stones just for the material cost. He wasn't sure about the exact price of a low-level puppet, but he roughly knew that a low-level puppet wouldn't exceed 100 spirit stones in price. In other words, manufacturing a puppet would take 3 to 4 days, and the profit would only be 3 to 4 times the cost. This was far inferior to making talismans. No wonder there's a hierarchy of contempt among craftsmen, with formation, alchemy, artifact refining, and talisman crafting looking down on other skills. Puppetry is still considered a decent skill among the 100 arts of cultivation, but compared to making talismans, which is relatively easy and lucrative, the gap is huge. And talisman crafting is still ranked last among the mainstream 4 arts of cultivation. Lu Changsheng shook his head in dismay. He suddenly felt that this second-order puppetry technique was somewhat useless for him at present. Firstly, this technique couldn't be used to make money. Making money by manufacturing puppets was nowhere near as easy and fast as making talismans. Then, the time and material costs were too high. It made him give up on his original idea of puppet warfare. Even a first-order low-level puppet was too expensive for him to play with. As for manufacturing a second-order puppet, it was even more out of the question. It wasn't that he couldn't make it, but simply that he didn't have the money. The material cost of a single second-order puppet, Lu Changsheng wasn't very clear about. But he made a rough estimate, at least several thousand spirit stones. Too difficult. Lu Changsheng let out a deep sigh. Feeling that on this cultivation path, it seemed like money was needed everywhere. He currently needed money to rescue the poor female cultivators stranded in the White Jade Tower. He also needed money to buy a first-order extreme-quality talisman pen, purchase second-order talisman materials, and draw a second-order talisman. He was already short on money and desperately needed it, so where would he get the money to buy materials and manufacture a second-order puppet? Alas, a person is ultimately limited. If one tries to do everything themselves, it's too difficult. There simply isn't enough time and energy. No wonder many craftsmen choose to join a faction. Lu Changsheng shook his head in dismay. He also understood why many people would choose to join a faction. Because joining a faction had many benefits. Just like how he had enjoyed many benefits from the Lu family. But the problem was that his second-order talisman crafting and current second-order puppetry couldn't be revealed. He couldn't quickly convert them into resources. And currently, he didn't have enough strength, so he didn't dare to reveal his second-order techniques. Otherwise, what if he became a slave who made talismans for 8 hours a day? Hey, wait a minute. This puppetry technique, although difficult, its main difficulty lies in its complexity. It's not just about being able to refine materials, manufacture parts, and assemble them, but also about inscribing spiritual arrays and so on. A person wanting to master all of these would naturally find it very difficult, but these steps can be divided and assigned to different people. Lu Changsheng digested the puppetry knowledge in his brain. Suddenly, Lu Changsheng felt that this puppet manufacturing was similar to his previous life's assembly line screw-tightening factory, and an idea sprang to mind. If one person only needs to master one aspect, wouldn't it be simpler? I can find a batch of talented apprentices and teach them different parts of puppet manufacturing, such as refining materials, manufacturing parts, and assembling them. And then, I can teach the most core spiritual array inscription to someone I trust. Wouldn't that be able to achieve puppet assembly line production? As long as I can achieve puppet assembly line production, the quantity will increase, and making money will become simpler, right? After all, making talismans is a high-profit business, but ultimately, it's limited to one person, whereas assembly line production can't be compared. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. The more he thought about this idea, the more feasible it seemed. Making talismans was something that could only be done by himself. But with the second-order puppetry technique, as a second-order puppet master, he discovered that puppet manufacturing could be divided into different tasks. Puppetry was a difficult skill, not only because it required refining and manufacturing individual parts, but also because it required spiritual array inscription and understanding of mechanics, human physiology, physics, and mechanical construction. But by dividing these tasks and industrializing them, letting different people do different tasks, the threshold would suddenly decrease. It was entirely possible to create an assembly line industry. Others should be able to think of this too, right? Never mind, it's still a bit far-fetched for me right now. I'll consider it later when I have more power. Lu Changsheng shook his head, suppressing the idea that had just occurred to him. Wanting to create a puppet manufacturing industry, he would need to have a certain amount of power first. Currently, he had no money and no power, so he might as well rely on making talismans to earn money and focus on cultivating. Looking at the sky outside, it was almost evening, and Lu Changsheng walked out of the spiritual talisman shop. He was preparing to buy some materials for making puppets. This thing was expensive, but since he had the skill, he might as well try making a few. If all else fails, it can also be used as a toy for the kids. Lu Changsheng did not go to the Rouge Cultivator Market to buy materials. On this round trip, he hadn't even finished browsing, and the sky was already darkening. Half an hour later, Lu Changsheng arrived at the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall. This was a store opened by the Blue Cloud sect itself, with a total of 7 floors, and it was extremely luxurious. Inside, they sold pills, magical weapons, cultivation techniques, and rare treasures, with guarantees for all items. Lu Changsheng came to the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall and purchased materials to craft a first-grade low-level puppet and a first-grade medium-level puppet. He also bought some spiritual materials for cultivating the 100 treasure refinement body tempering technique. Although he had the Black Dragon magic bead, which allowed him to make rapid progress in his cultivation, Lu Changsheng still set aside half an hour every day to cultivate the technique. In the end, Lu Changsheng bought all the items he needed, spending a total of 236 spirit stones. This further strained his already impoverished family's finances. His plan to visit the White Jade Tower would have to be delayed again. After leaving the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall, Lu Changsheng passed by a puppet store called Xianxia Pavilion. He went in to inquire about the prices of the puppets. The shopkeeper told him that different puppets had different effects and prices, even among those of the same grade. Then, the shopkeeper told him the approximate prices of the puppets. A first-grade low-level puppet would cost around 70 to 80 spirit stones. A first-grade medium-level puppet would cost around 300 spirit stones. A first-grade high-level puppet would cost around 1,000 to 1,200 spirit stones. A first-grade top-level puppet would cost around 3,000 spirit stones. After hearing the prices, Lu Changsheng bid farewell and left. It wasn't that the price was too high, he was just inquiring about the price of the puppets. Regarding this price, Lu Changsheng could only say that puppets were a profitable business. However, compared to talismans, it was only a small profit. Of course, if the other party had a production line, that would be a different story. After buying the materials, Lu Changsheng didn't return to the talisman shop, but went straight home. After all, there was a new baby at home today, and he needed to get back early to take a look. After returning home, Lu Changsheng visited his newborn child, holding the baby in his arms as he sat in the courtyard. Holding the baby and sitting in the courtyard, enjoying the peace and quiet, was also a way for Lu Changsheng to relax. Of course, this was only possible if the baby didn't cry. After sitting for a while, Baihe came to report to Lu Changsheng that their neighbor, Xia Long, had come to visit. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately stood up, handed the baby to Baihe, and smiled as he went to greet Xia Long. This neighbor was one of his major clients. Every few months, he would come to buy talismans from Lu Changsheng, and he always bought high-quality ones. It was a relatively stable channel for selling talismans. Brother Xia, are you preparing to go on an adventure again? Lu Changsheng arrived in the main hall, saw Xia Long, and asked with a smile. He remembered that Xia Long had just returned half a month ago. Yes, I'm already 50 years old, and if I don't make a move now, I'll miss my chance. Besides, I have 2 children at home who are about to start their cultivation journey. Xia Long sighed and said this. Lu Changsheng knew that when Xia Long said, "If I don't make a move now, I'll miss my chance," he was referring to building his foundation. In the cultivation world, there was a saying that had been passed down. Cultivators who wanted to break through to the foundation stage had a final deadline of 60 years old. After 60, the body would begin to decline, and the risk of breaking through would increase. Not only would the probability of success decrease, but the risks would also become greater. After all, building one's foundation was no laughing matter. If one failed to build their foundation, they would at best suffer injuries and have their cultivation revert. At worst, they would damage their meridians, become crippled, or even die. "What kind of talismans do you want this time, Brother Xia?" Lu Changsheng didn't dwell on the topic and asked directly. "Do you have lightning-inducing talismans, golden light shield talismans, willow nectar talisman, and 100-mile invisibility talismans on you?" Xia Long inquired. "I have a few of each of these talismans on me, but I'm not sure how many you need, Brother Xia." Lu Changsheng replied calmly. "Do you have 2 or 3 lightning-inducing talismans?" Xia Long asked. "I happen to have 3, and if you need them, I can sell them all to you. I'll be restocking my shop next month anyway," Lu Changsheng said, pretending that it was a coincidence. Of course, this was a lie. The talismans he sold to Xia Long were all drawn for his own protection and carried on his person. He had over 100 high-quality talismans and nearly 50 top-level talismans. The reason he didn't have more was that he had limited time to draw them, and he didn't have a safe channel to sell them yet. The material costs were also a consideration, so he didn't want to stockpile too many. "Then thank you, Brother Lu. I'll take 3 lightning-inducing talismans, and 1 each of the other 3 types," Xia Long said. "Are you going to a particularly dangerous place, Brother Xia, that you're buying so many talismans?" "I also have a lightning flash talisman on me that I drew for my own protection. If you want it, I can sell it to you," Lu Changsheng asked, trying to gauge Xia Long's intentions. Lu Changsheng thought that since he was currently short on money, and Xia Long was a neighbor and a longtime customer, he could sell him 1 or 2 top-level talismans. After all, he did have a lightning flash talisman given to him by the 4th elder, which he could use as a bargaining chip. Brother Lu has top-level talismans? I don't know what price you're selling them for." Xia Long's eyes lit up when he heard this. "This is also a family heirloom given to me for protection, Brother Xia. If you need it, I can sell it to you as a favor. The price will be the same as the shop price, 220 spirit stones," Lu Changsheng said. "All right, thank you, Brother Lu." Xia Long bowed in gratitude. The top-level talismans were not easy to come by in Jiolong Market, so Xia Long was willing to buy them. "You're too kind, Brother Xia." Lu Changsheng took out 7 talismans from his storage bag and said, "That's a total of 490 spirit stones. If you give me 450 spirit stones, that'll be fine." He usually gave Xia Long a discounted price, which was one of the reasons Xia Long always came to him to buy talismans. Not only was the channel stable, but the quality of the talismans was guaranteed, and the price was relatively favorable. "All right, thank you, Brother Lu." Xia Long was also very pleased. He took out 450 spirit stones from his storage bag and bid farewell. Lu Changsheng saw him off, then let out a satisfied sigh. Indeed, talismans are the way to go. What's the point of those useless puppeteers? Not even a dog would bother with them. These 7 talismans, 6 of which were high-quality talismans, had a total cost of around 15 spirit stones. The top-level talisman, Lightning Flash Talisman, had a cost of around 7 spirit stones. With a total cost of 22 spirit stones, he had sold them for 450 spirit stones, earning a profit of over 20 times. Lu Changsheng couldn't help but feel proud of his business acumen. It was completely impossible to compare with making puppets. "Tomorrow, I can finally go to the White Jade Tower." Lu Changsheng looked at the spirit stones in his hand, thinking to himself. He still had over 200 spirit stones on him, and with the 450 spirit stones he had just earned, he could find 1 or 2 high-quality female cultivators. At the same time, he hoped that Xia Long would return safely. Otherwise, he would lose a stable major client. The next day, Lu Changsheng took the spirit stones to the White Jade Tower. With a familiar route, He spent 580 spirit stones and bought 2 servant girls. One had a 9th grade spirit root and the other had an 8th grade spirit root. Both were beautiful and had excellent figures, making people feel sorry for them. Lu Changsheng couldn't bear to see such pitiful people. Originally, he had enough spirit stones to buy a 7th grade spirit root. But Lu Changsheng thought about it and decided to buy 2 instead. He wanted both quality and quantity. As before, he would have to wait for the White Jade Tower to notify him. The White Jade Tower is indeed a money pit. Next time I have money, I'll buy materials for a 2nd grade talisman instead. Lu Changsheng walked out of the White Jade Tower, sighed, and shook his head. Before he knew it, another half-month had passed. Lu Changsheng's 41st child was born. At this time, Lu Changsheng was also preparing to return home. Because the Lu family's spirit root testing ceremony was about to begin in 10 days. Lu Ping'an, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila would all be participating. Even though he already knew the result, the 4 children participating in the spirit root testing ceremony didn't have spirit roots. But it was still his children's first time participating in the ceremony. As their father, he had to go back and take a look. I'll go back alone this time, and hopefully, nothing unexpected will happen. Lu Changsheng thought to himself as he walked on the road. He didn't want to be too flashy in the city and attract unwanted attention. This time, he had also changed his appearance. He had transformed into a young man with a dark complexion and an ordinary face. After leaving Jiolong Market, Lu Changsheng did not ride his steel-feathered eagle. Instead, he took out a flying magical weapon from his storage bag, which he had obtained from a bandit cultivator. Now that he had broken through the late stage of qi refining, he could also control flying magical weapons to travel. Of course, Lu Changsheng wasn't thinking of flying back to Qingju Mountain like that. That wouldn't be realistic. He simply wanted to experience flying magical weapons and pretend to be someone else. This flying magical weapon was like a round wheel. Lu Changsheng injected his spiritual energy into it, threw it into the air, and jumped onto it. Then, with a slight movement of his mind, he used his spiritual energy to maintain it, and the wheel began to fly. The basic speed of this flying magical weapon wasn't very fast. It was only slightly faster than a spirit horse. However, compared to flying sword magical weapons, it consumed very little spiritual energy. If he wanted to increase the speed, such as when escaping, the spiritual energy consumption would increase exponentially. After flying for about 10 kilometers, Lu Changsheng felt that his spiritual energy had been depleted by about 1/10. This kind of flying magical weapon consumes too much spiritual energy and isn't suitable for long-distance travel. For qi refining cultivators who want to travel long distances, they still need to rely on flying mounts or flying boats that can fly using spirit stones. Lu Changsheng shook his head and said. He then descended from the flying magical weapon and took out his steel-feathered eagle from his spiritual pet bag and mounted it. Whoosh! Whoosh! The steel-feathered eagle spread its wings and took off, flying rapidly towards Qingju Mountain. 2 days later. Qingju Mountain. Lu Changsheng, with a handsome face and a tall, straight figure, wearing a green bamboo leaf robe, dismounted from the steel-feathered eagle. This journey was very smooth, and nothing unexpected happened. However, with his current qi refining cultivation and over 100 high-quality talismans, 50 or so top-quality talismans, and a talisman treasure, Lu Changsheng felt a sense of security. On the way back, he wasn't as worried as before. When Lu Changsheng returned home, his family was overjoyed to see him. As Lu Changsheng chatted with Lu Miaoyun, he learned that the spirit root testing ceremony would begin in 5 days. He also found out that one of his wives had become pregnant during his 3-day stay at home. In other words, the servant girl he had gotten pregnant at Jiolong Market was carrying his 51st child. After spending some time with his wives and children at home, Lu Changsheng went to pay his respects to the 4th elder. After all, it was only proper to visit them after returning home. The 4th elder knew that Lu Changsheng had returned for the spirit root testing ceremony and didn't say much. She asked about his situation over the past 3 months and checked on his progress with the talismanic path. 5 days later, the Lu family spirit root testing ceremony began. Lu Changsheng, accompanied by Lu Lanshu, Lu Qinger, Lu Ziyu, and Lu Lianer, brought their 4 children to a square in Qingyu Mountain. The spirit root testing ceremony was being held here. As he looked around, Lu Changsheng saw many Lu family juniors. He also saw the immortal seedlings who had come to the Lu family with him. They were all here to participate in the spirit root testing ceremony with their children. Although it was a grand ceremony, there weren't many people present. There were only about 40 children. Line up. The spirit root testing ceremony was hosted by a Lu family elder. Uncle Fu and several Lu family juniors maintained order. Lu Changsheng also let his 4 children line up, waiting to be tested for their spirit roots. The treasure used to detect spirit roots was a water crystal pillar about 1 meter long. The children would go up, drip a drop of blood, and then touch the pillar with both hands, waiting for 30 seconds. If they had a spirit root, the water crystal pillar would react. The spirit root testing ceremony is about to begin. As the time was about right, the Lu family elder began, letting the first child go up. Husband. Lu Lanshu and the other 3 women were all tense and anxious, their eyes filled with hope and expectation. After all, this moment would determine their children's fate. If they didn't have a spirit root, they would only be able to become ordinary people in the future. Although they had the Lu family and Lu Changsheng to support them, their children would still be able to live a life of wealth and luxury. But as mothers, they naturally hoped that their children would have spirit roots and be able to cultivate. Become a high-ranking cultivator. Lu Changsheng saw their tense and anxious expressions and sighed inwardly, not saying a word. He only lightly patted their hands, telling them not to be too anxious. Next. 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 One by one, the children went up to be tested. But the water crystal pillar remained unresponsive, indicating that none of them had a spirit root. Seeing this, not only the parents and elders around them looked tense and disappointed. The children in line also looked anxious. After all, growing up in an environment like Qingyu Mountain, they knew that this moment would determine their future fate. Just then, a small child placed their hand on the water crystal pillar, causing the pillar to emit a 3-stage light with a faint red color. Not bad, a 7-rank spirit root with a fire attribute bias. The elder testing the spirit roots smiled upon seeing this. Good. My son has a spirit root, a 7-rank spirit root. A young man not far away let out a loud shout of excitement upon seeing this. Lu Changsheng remembered him. He was one of the immortal seedlings who had come to the Lu family with him. Who would have thought that his first child would have a spirit root, and it was even a 7-rank spirit root? This was indeed a stroke of good luck. Don't make too much noise. Uncle Fu reminded him, but didn't scold him. The spirit root testing ceremony continued, and during the process, another 8-rank spirit root was detected. It was a child of a Lu family direct descendant. And now it was Lu Pingin's turn. As Lu Changsheng had expected, there were no surprises. The water crystal pillar remained unresponsive. Not just him, but the next ones, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila, were all the same. Sigh. Looking at the 4 children who had finished testing, all without a spirit root. Even though he had mentally prepared himself, Lu Changsheng still let out a small sigh. Dad, Mom. The 4 little ones walked over. Their small faces looked a bit disappointed because they hadn't detected a spirit root. They were all around 5 or 6 years old, and they roughly knew what a spirit root meant. Although Lu Changsheng had previously warned them, saying that cultivating wasn't as great as they thought, and that being ordinary wasn't bad either. But these children were mostly raised by their mothers. They were more eager for their children to succeed, to become dragons and phoenixes. It's okay, most people don't have spirit roots, and it's not like it's the end of the world. Come, Dad will take you home to eat some good food. Lu Changsheng rubbed the heads of his 4 children and spoke softly. Yeah, Dad, I want to eat beast milk cake. Lu Wuyo and Lu Shila, the 2 girls, looked relatively more open-minded and smiled. Lu Pingin and Lu Wuyu, on the other hand, didn't look as optimistic. The family of 9 returned home. Just as they reached the door, Lu Pingin suddenly looked up at Lu Changsheng and said, Dad, does not having a spirit root mean I can't become a cultivator? I also want to become a cultivator like you. Lu Changsheng heard this and saw the hopeful look in his son's eyes, and his heart ached a little. But he could only remain silent. Not having a spirit root meant you couldn't cultivate. This was the truth of the cultivation world and iron law. Even with the system by his side, he didn't dare say he could break this iron law. He wanted to say something, but couldn't bring himself to say it. Ping'an. Hearing this, Lu Ping'an looked at his old father's expression, pursed his lips, and said immediately, "Dad, don't be sad. Ping'an won't cultivate anymore." Lu Ping'an heard this and looked at his father's expression, then said, "Dad, don't be sad." Lu Wuyo also chimed in, her voice sweet and gentle. The little ones may be young, but they were all very understanding. Lu Changsheng looked at the sensible child and felt a little relieved, but also a little ashamed. He lightly patted their heads and said nothing. The next day, Lu Changsheng rode his steel-feathered eagle back to Jiolong Market. "Sigh, I thought I had already become as calm as a rock after all these years." Lu Changsheng thought back to yesterday's scene and couldn't help but sigh. He thought about how this kind of situation would happen every year from now on. And he couldn't help but sigh again. The world is never perfect. This is just one of the cruelties of the cultivation world. Lu Changsheng looked at the blue sky, the mountains and forests below, and let out a long breath, trying to release the pent-up emotions in his chest. At this moment, Lu Changsheng suddenly sensed several auras fluctuating from the side. He turned his head to look. He saw a slender, elegantly dressed young man riding a purple flying snake. Behind him, there were 3 figures driving a black cloud. 2 people controlled flying magic weapons and continuously attacked the young man. It was clear that they were trying to kill him. Lu Changsheng was somewhat surprised to see this. This young man should be at the late stage of qi refining. But facing the pursuit of 5 cultivators, he only seemed slightly flustered. While continuously fending off the attacks, he could still control a swarm of golden insects, similar to bees, to attack the 5 people behind him. "Let's go." Lu Changsheng didn't look anymore. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. He immediately let the steel-feathered eagle dive down, not wanting to get involved in this matter. However, the young man riding the flying snake also saw Lu Changsheng, and his eyes lit up in an instant. This glance made Lu Changsheng feel a few strands of hair stand on end. This made him feel that this young man was not simple. "Fellow cultivator, since we've met, it's fate, I'll give you a great opportunity. This is a bottle of profound true water, a foundation-establishing spirit object that can help with foundation establishment." The young man shouted towards Lu Changsheng. He directly threw a black porcelain bottle towards Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng's eyebrows furrowed, and his face turned slightly solemn. He instantly knew that the other party was trying to shift the blame. But when he heard the 4 words, "foundation establishing spirit object," he couldn't help but be moved, and he raised his hand to catch the bottle. After all, he was currently at the 7th stage of qi refining. He could also start considering foundation establishment. Wanting to establish a foundation wasn't something that could be done solely by oneself. It was better to rely on external objects. 99% of cultivators who attempted to establish a foundation would rely on external objects to increase their chances. Otherwise, trying to establish a foundation solely by oneself would be a 9-to-1 death sentence. Among the things that helped with foundation establishment the most renowned was the foundation establishment pill. When attempting to establish a foundation, consuming a foundation establishment pill would not only stabilize one's qi and blood, but also increase one's spiritual power, awaken one's spiritual awareness, and harmonize one's essence, qi, and spirit. Even if the attempt to establish a foundation failed, one wouldn't suffer from foundation backlash. Apart from the foundation establishment pill, there were many other foundation-establishing spirit objects that could help with foundation establishment. This profound true water, in particular, had a significant effect on the spiritual power aspect of the 3 foundation establishment stages: qi and blood, spiritual power, and spiritual awareness. Should I take it or not? Even if I don't use this profound true water myself, I can sell it for at least 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng looked at the ceramic bottle and thought to himself. After weighing the pros and cons in his mind, Lu Changsheng immediately made a decision. Since things had already gotten mixed up, even if he didn't want to get involved, it wouldn't necessarily end like this. Moreover, he wanted the object. I want the object, and I don't want to get involved in this mess, so there's only one way to do it. Lu Changsheng looked at the young man and the 5 pursuers with a calm expression. The 5 people pursuing the young man saw this, and, despite knowing that the young man was trying to shift the blame, the leader didn't hesitate. He directly ordered, "Third brother, fourth brother, go and retrieve the profound true water." "Yes, big brother." The 2 of them heard the order and immediately looked at Lu Changsheng, driving their flying magical weapons to attack the steel-feathered eagle. Lu Changsheng immediately threw out a golden light shield talisman. A golden light enveloped him and the steel-feathered eagle, protecting them. The steel-feathered eagle couldn't get hurt, otherwise, the journey to Jiolong Market, which still had a day to go, would be affected. Next, he held a dozen talisman cards in one hand and a thick, solid talisman card with a golden long brick pattern in the other. It was the golden light brick talisman treasure. The young man and these 5 people in front of him weren't simple, so if he was going to take action, he had to be decisive and quick. "High-quality talismans, it seems you're quite wealthy, kid. However you dare to accept the thing that we from the 5 fierce of the Ko clan have set our eyes on? You're not afraid of losing your life." Third brother and fourth brother charged towards Lu Changsheng, their faces revealing cruel smiles. They each wielded a large knife and a large hammer, and their aura was fierce and intimidating. The golden light shield talisman was only a high-quality talisman, and it could probably only withstand 1 or 2 attacks. Looking at the incoming knife and hammer, Lu Changsheng's expression remained calm, his robes fluttering without wind, making a rustling sound, as he threw out a stack of talismans. A series of fire clouds, fire snakes, and wind blades appeared, attacking the 2 of them. "Kid, you think you can take the treasure from us with just this little trick?" Third brother and fourth brother saw this attack and didn't panic at all. They used their magical weapons to defend themselves. However, the next moment, they saw a golden rectangular object shooting up in Lu Changsheng's hand, rapidly growing in size in the air and radiating golden light. A majestic, mountain-like aura was released, making them feel as if a great mountain had fallen on them, and their expressions changed drastically. "This is a talisman treasure." The 2 of them shouted in shock and anger. They never thought that the young man they had been chasing would be so difficult to deal with, making them 5 brothers chase him for half a day. Now, on the road, they encountered another young man who they thought would be easy to handle, but he turned out to be a talisman treasure user. This was just too ridiculous. Was it because they hadn't checked the almanac before going out today? Fellow cultivator, stop. It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. This foundation establishing spirit object is yours to take. Right, let's talk. Third brother and fourth brother immediately shouted loudly. They couldn't understand Lu Changsheng's behavior. How could someone who used talisman treasures so casually care about a foundation-establishing spirit object? Would they go to such great lengths for a foundation-establishing spirit object? Moreover, who wouldn't keep their talisman treasures in hand as a deterrent, and who would use them at the slightest disagreement? Third brother and fourth brother were completely bewildered. They couldn't understand at all. Not only were they too bewildered, but the young man and the three people on the other side, who had been watching the scene, were also stunned, looking confused. They had never seen anyone take action like this before. Too late. Faced with these words, Lu Changsheng just said coldly. The talisman treasure had already been taken out, so there was no turning back. Third brother, fourth brother. The tall, imposing man on the black cloud on the other side urgently shouted. He used a magical technique, summoning a blood-colored chain, like a blood snake, shooting towards third brother and fourth brother, trying to take them away. But the golden light brick had already become like a small golden mountain, heavily pressing down on the two of them. Its spiritual pressure was so great that the two of them couldn't resist, and the blood-colored chain that was flying towards them was slightly slowed down. Boom! The golden light brick crashed down, and the two of them were severely injured, directly falling from the sky. You killed my third brother and fourth brother. I'll kill you today. The tall, imposing man on the black cloud was enraged, his face pale with anger, and he bit his finger, squeezing out a drop of extremely thick, fresh blood. Then, he forcefully flicked his wrist, and a strange, ancient-looking flying dagger appeared, emitting a blood-colored glow, flying rapidly towards Lu Changsheng. Not good. Lu Changsheng's eyes condensed, knowing that this attack was not simple. The other party wanted to take advantage of the gap in the talisman treasure's power to directly kill him. He immediately took out another talisman. A high-quality talisman, the Golden Light Shield Talisman. At the same time, he summoned the medium-grade magical weapons shield he had obtained from the robber, which was left for his own use. The earthy yellow shield was like a thick, heavy wall, standing in front of him. And at the same time, Lu Changsheng controlled the golden light brick talisman treasure with his mind. Letting the golden light brick prepare for a second attack, and locking onto the young man on the flying snake and the three people on the black cloud. If you want something but don't want to get into trouble, then if you kill everyone, wouldn't it be a perfect solution to avoid future troubles? With a deadly weapon in hand, the killing intent arose. Having experienced 2 battles before, Lu Changsheng not only tasted the sweetness of victory, but also gained some confidence and courage. He was confident as long as he didn't face a Foundation Establishment cultivator, he had nothing to fear. As for Foundation Establishment cultivators, as long as he didn't face them directly, he could still fight. Whoosh! The blood-colored flying dagger shot towards Lu Changsheng, directly breaking through the shield magical weapon he had summoned, making Lu Changsheng's eyes narrow. He quickly took out 5 golden light shield talismans, layering 5 of golden light protection on himself. In a battle, there couldn't be any mistakes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The blood-colored flying dagger was extremely fierce, breaking through the shield magical weapon and instantly arriving in front of Lu Changsheng, breaking through 3 of his golden light shield talisman, and only losing momentum when facing the 4th of golden light protection. What a fierce attack! Lu Changsheng was shocked, but he didn't panic. He used his mind to control the golden light brick that had risen again and crashed it down towards the 4 people. Fellow cultivator, misunderstanding. The slender young man riding the flying snake felt his body sink and shouted loudly. He immediately slapped his waist bag, and countless black insects appeared, like a suit of armor, covering his entire body, and he tried to escape. The 3 people on the black cloud also knew they had lost the opportunity to kill Lu Changsheng at this moment. They exchanged a glance, simultaneously using a magical technique, making the black cloud under their feet turn blood-red, trying to break free from the golden light brick's oppressive power and escape its range. Lu Changsheng didn't expect the 4 of them to have such abilities. Indeed, they were not simple. He immediately took out 3 talismans and activated them. High-quality talisman, soul-shocking talisman. Top-quality talisman, lightning flash talisman. Top quality talisman, Heaven and Earth Net Talisman. As the 3 talisman cards were activated, a sound like thunder first appeared in the void, making people's hearts uneasy and fearful. Then a lightning bolt exploded on the blood cloud, blocking the 3 people's retreat. And a large, 4-sided black net formed around them, trapping the 4 of them and closing in on them. Not good. Second brother, 5th brother, hold on. The 4 people saw the heaven and earth net gathering from all directions and the golden bricks falling heavily from above. They abandoned their internal conflicts and focused on self-preservation, each using their own methods. Hum hum hum. The slender youth riding the flying snake was surrounded by countless insects, which transformed him into a black insect cocoon, as if he was wearing insect armor. Meanwhile, the 3 brothers on the blood cloud, with the eldest brother using a hand seal, caused the blood cloud to surge and envelop the 3 brothers, attempting to break free from the heaven and earth net. The second brother consecutively activated several talisman, forming a series of protective shields around him. The 5th brother, on the other hand, took out a blue, fist-sized bead, which emitted a faint blue light and hovered above his head. Just at that moment, boom! A golden brick, as large as a small mountain, came crashing down towards the 4 people. Lu Changsheng saw that the 4 people's methods were not simple, so he didn't hold back. He activated the golden brick to its limits, causing it to fall straight down, intending to crush the 4 people into meat paste on the ground. Indeed, they haven't died yet. Now, at the Qi refining 7th stage, Lu Changsheng's control over the talisman and his spiritual sense had become much stronger. He could sense that the 4 people being crushed by the golden brick were still alive, they were still resisting, and were trying to break free from the golden brick and the heaven and earth net's restraints. Immediately, he took out another stack of talisman. Top-grade talisman, Heaven and Earth Net Talisman. Top-grade talisman, Chaotic Law Talisman. High-grade talisman, Binding Talisman. High-grade talisman, Earth Prison Talisman. 2 Heaven and Earth Net talismans flew out, forming a black net that enveloped the golden brick from all directions, preventing the 4 people from escaping. The Chaotic Law Talisman could affect the spiritual energy of Qi refining cultivators, causing their internal energy to become disordered. The Binding Talisman could restrain and bind others' bodies, affecting their movements. 1 Chaotic Law Talisman and 4 Binding Talismans transformed into a rainbow light, shooting towards the golden brick, disrupting and influencing the 4 people's resistance. Next, Lu Changsheng had the steel-feathered eagle rapidly dive down, aiming to cast the Earth Prison Talisman at the spot where the golden brick was about to fall. But at this moment, the steel-feathered eagle was intimidated by the golden brick's might, so it let out a frightened cry and did not dare to approach. Damn it! Lu Changsheng glared at the cowardly steel-feathered eagle. He then threw out a flying magical weapon and jumped onto the round wheel, quickly flying down to cast the Earth Prison Talisman. He directly solidified the ground, transforming it into a prison to prevent the 4 people from escaping at the moment of impact. After finishing, Lu Changsheng took out another stack of attack talismans. If the 4 people still hadn't died and had any remaining energy, he would launch another wave of firepower. Just then, boom! The golden brick fell from the sky and landed on the ground, creating a shocking, earth-shaking sound. The entire mountain range seemed to tremble violently, causing the flying demonic beasts around the mountain to be frightened and scatter. The already frightened steel-feathered eagle, upon hearing the deafening sound, let out a cry and flapped its wings as if it was about to fall. Lu Changsheng didn't pay attention to the steel-feathered eagle. He gazed at the golden brick that stood on the ground like a small golden mountain, and his eyes narrowed. Are they dead? At this moment, he couldn't be certain if the 4 people had died or not. After all, from their previous performance, it was clear that the 4 people's methods were not simple. If not for his talismans blocking their path, they might have escaped from the golden brick's attack. It's a pity I don't understand formations, and I don't have an array device. Otherwise, I could have set up a formation and made it much safer. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. He took out another stack of talismans from his storage bag. High-grade talisman, Earth Trap Fire Rocket Talisman. High-grade talisman, Blue Silver Binding Talisman. Top-grade talisman, Chaotic Law Talisman. He set up 4 traps in the 4 directions of the golden brick. As soon as someone made a move, they would trigger the Earth Trap Fire Rocket Talisman and the Blue Silver Binding Talisman. At the same time, blue vines would entangle and pierce, combining with the fire rocket attack. As for the Chaotic Law Talisman, it was to be used in conjunction with the attack talismans in his hand, to disrupt the 4 people's spiritual energy and then launch a firepower attack. After finishing his preparations, Lu Changsheng's spiritual sense stirred, and he slowly lifted the golden brick into the air. If the 4 of them are still alive, he can just smash it again without activating the talisman. As the golden brick rose, a massive pit, several dozen feet deep and wide, appeared. Lu Changsheng stood tall and straight on the flying magic weapon. He slowly stepped forward and looked into the huge pit. Inside the pit, the 3 brothers in the black cloud had already been crushed into meat paste. They were dead beyond recognition. The youth who had transformed into a black insect cocoon had also become dry and lifeless. The purple flying snake beside him was also a bloody mess. Lu Changsheng used his spiritual sense to detect and confirm that the 3 lumps of meat and the insect cocoon, as well as the purple snake, had no remaining energy, and only then did he feel at ease. However, out of extreme caution, Lu Changsheng conjured up a series of fireballs in his palm and shot them towards the massive pit. Cultivators have many methods, and these 4 people were not simple, so he still had to be careful. Only when they were reduced to ashes could he be certain they were truly dead. Under the fireballs, the 3 lumps of meat and the flying snake's meat were quickly incinerated, leaving only remnants. The black insect cocoon also crackled and popped under the flames. However, suddenly the black cocoon shook violently, and a slender figure shot out from within, leaping out of the deep pit. But the next moment, several blue vines rapidly emerged from the ground, binding the figure. At the same time, several fire rockets appeared out of thin air, shooting towards the youth. Lu Changsheng, standing on the round wheel, was also shocked by the scene. He didn't expect the youth to still be alive, and his hand instinctively shot out a talisman. You're crazy. Are you not afraid of death? The youth's face changed drastically, looking extremely ugly. It was as if Xi Minqing was caught in the act of adultery with Pan Jinlian, and Wu Dalong had brought Wu Er to catch them in the act. He had never seen someone like this before. They would use talismans without hesitation, as if they were worthless. Do you think talismans are worthless? He felt regret and remorse in his heart. What was he thinking, playing with fire and causing trouble? Now he was going to suffer the consequences. Not only would he suffer heavy losses, but he might also end up dying here. He immediately slapped his palm, using a top-grade talisman, the Golden Light Protection Talisman, to envelop his body in golden light. At the same time, he took out a blue, round bead and held it above his head and shouted, "If you make another move, I'll detonate this heavenly thunderbolt. We'll die together." Heavenly thunderbolt? Lu Changsheng heard this and looked at the blue, walnut-sized bead in the youth's hand, and his eyes narrowed as he stopped his attack. He had never seen a heavenly thunderbolt before, but he had read about it in books. Legend had it that the heavenly thunderbolt was created by a nascent soul true lord, condensing the power of heaven and earth's thunder and lightning. Each one possessed immense power. Even a foundation establishment stage cultivator would be reduced to ashes if they faced it head-on. He didn't expect the youth to have a heavenly thunderbolt. "Friend, we have no grudges. Why must we make such a fuss? We didn't know each other before, but now we do. Let's just end this matter here, how about it?" The youth looked at Lu Changsheng, who had stopped his attack, and spoke. "How can you say we have no grudges? I was just passing by, and if not for your troublemaking, would I have wasted so many talismans?" Lu Changsheng's expression was calm and cold as he spoke. "What troublemaking? I'm just simply making friends with you, fellow cultivator. And that foundation establishment spirit object is enough to compensate for your losses." The youth smiled awkwardly. Heh. Lu Changsheng held onto his talisman, letting out a cold laugh. "What do you want to do?" The youth heard the cold laugh and felt a bit of anger. He had never been treated so unfairly before. Today, not only had he almost been killed, but now he was also forced to beg for mercy, and the other party was still speaking coldly. "Compensation. Just give me enough compensation, and I'll let you go." Lu Changsheng directly ignored his attitude, taking out another stack of top-grade talismans, and spoke coldly. If he were to back down because of the heavenly thunderbolt, the initiative would fall into the other party's hands. He didn't believe the other party would really die together with him. Moreover, he was taking out so many top-grade talismans to intimidate, letting the other party know that this so-called dying together was just a threat and he might not necessarily die. The youth heard this and felt a faint pressure from the golden light above, seeing the stack of talismans in Lu Changsheng's hand. He knew he couldn't escape. Today, if he didn't give in, it would be difficult to resolve the situation peacefully. He took a deep breath, took out a jade box from his waist, and tossed it towards Lu Changsheng. There's a heavenly heart lotus inside, also a foundation establishment spirit object, which helps with the birth of a divine sense. It should be enough to compensate for your losses, right? Lu Changsheng used his spiritual power to wrap around the jade box, checking it briefly. Then he opened it and looked inside, seeing a snow-white lotus flower emitting a faint, soft glow. As soon as the jade box was opened, a refreshing, heart-soothing fragrance wafted out, invigorating one's spirit. Good stuff. Lu Changsheng immediately closed the jade box, knowing that this spirit object had to be stored in a precious box like this, or its effects would be lost. Then he looked at the youth and spoke calmly. "Give me another foundation establishment spirit object that benefits the physical body, and this matter will be settled." "You think foundation establishment spirit objects are as common as dirt, and I can just take them out whenever I want?" The youth was angry when he heard this. Didn't he know that one foundation establishment spirit object was worth 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones? And it was priceless to boot. He had already collected 2, which was already very good. Lu Changsheng didn't believe him, his face filled with suspicion as he sized up the youth. After all, when he had caused trouble earlier, he had taken out a foundation establishment spirit object without hesitation. Now, it's another foundation establishment spirit treasure. Under the attack of his own talisman treasure, and so many talismans, he didn't die, which is simply astonishing. Now, he can still take out the heavenly thunderbolt, which is no ordinary treasure. "What are you looking at? Are you going to let me go or not?" The young man, under Lu Changsheng's scrutiny, also became angry. "I'm looking at how you just controlled so many insects. You must have an insect controlling technique, right? How about the inheritance of insect controlling technique, and we'll call it quits." Lu Changsheng didn't want to push the other party too far. Desperate people will do anything. Thinking about the insect-controlling technique the other party just used, he felt a spark of interest in his heart. He thought to himself that he could also raise some insects. This won't do. This is a secret technique of my family. The young man directly refused. Then he added, but I can give you a beast-taming inheritance. Beast-taming inheritance? What level? Lu Changsheng asked upon hearing this. He had been wanting to get a beast-taming technique to see if he could accelerate the growth of the 9 netherworld hound. However, he had inquired about it in the market before and found that knowledge was strictly controlled in this world. Whether it was cultivation techniques or inheritance of immortal arts, it was all the same. A first-level inheritance was still manageable. As long as you were willing to spend money, you could still buy it. But anything higher than that wasn't something you could buy with just money. Of course, Lu Changsheng also knew that this was because he hadn't reached that stage yet. A second-level beast-taming inheritance. The young man said. All right. Lu Changsheng nodded upon hearing this. Let's see if this beast-taming inheritance was useful to him. If it wasn't, a second-level beast-taming inheritance would still be worth a lot of money. Immediately, the young man took out a jade slip from his storage bag and tossed it to Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng used his spiritual power to wrap the jade slip and checked it briefly. Then, he roughly glanced at it, and inside, there were methods for cultivating and taming demonic beasts. All right, you can go. Lu Changsheng put away the jade slip and said directly. The young man was taken aback upon hearing this. He didn't expect Lu Changsheng to be so straightforward. He didn't hesitate either, tossing out a flying magical weapon, standing on it, and then cautiously looking at Lu Changsheng before slowly leaving. Lu Changsheng also gazed at the young man. Only after seeing him leave did he let out a sigh of relief. He raised his hand and summoned the damaged robes, boots, and storage bag from the deep pit. Then he put away the golden light brick talisman treasure. At this time, the talisman treasure had dimmed significantly. Lu Changsheng estimated that with such an explosive burst, it could only be used 6 or 7 more times. If he were to use it at full power at the foundation establishment stage, it would probably only last 2 times. Lu Changsheng didn't feel heartbroken and put away the talisman treasure. Then he began to search for the magical weapons that had fallen to the ground, as well as the 2 people's magical weapons and corpses. After all, these were all valuable items. After searching for about half an hour, Lu Changsheng found 2 bodies that were like mud. He took out the damaged robes and storage bags from their bodies, and then helped them return to the earth. Alas, this time, although I was forced into a desperate situation, I also had some greedy thoughts. I thought about killing people and snatching treasures to quickly get rich. Lu Changsheng thought to himself after collecting the items. He clearly recognized that he had tasted the sweetness of killing people and snatching treasures in the past 2 instances. So, he also had some thoughts about such things. However, this time, it had also made him more cautious. Even with the talisman treasure and a pile of high-quality, top-grade talismans, it didn't mean he was invincible in the qi refining period. Like the young man just now, his methods were astonishingly powerful. Under the attack of the talisman treasure and so many talismans, he was still alive, which was simply astonishing. Lu Changsheng still couldn't understand how the other party had done it. Don't underestimate anyone in the world. It's better to be more cautious and steady, and not to be too hasty in everything. Lu Changsheng warned himself. He was about to find a place to count his spoils. Suddenly, he felt a wave of aura fluctuations coming from afar. He looked up. It was the young man who had just left. Suddenly, a stack of talismans appeared in his hand. Wait, fellow Taoist, I came to propose a cooperation with you. The young man looked at Lu Changsheng and hurriedly raised his hand to speak. Cooperation. Lu Changsheng's eyebrows furrowed. He felt that this person was crazy. They had just fought to the death, and now he was coming to propose a cooperation? I'm planning to explore a true person's cave, so I want to cooperate with you and explore it together. The young man opened his mouth to say, no interest. Lu Changsheng directly refused. He already felt that he had been too greedy in killing people and snatching treasures, and he couldn't do such things in the future. Where would he go to explore some cave? Not to mention a true person's cave. Even if it were a nascent soul true lord's cave, he wouldn't be interested. In the cultivation world, you coveted the treasures left behind by your predecessors, while others coveted your life. Fellow Taoist, I won't hide it from you. This true person's cave is a legacy left behind by my ancestors. There's a bloodline treasure inside that I need very much, but I lost a lot of my treasure just now, and I don't have the confidence to do it alone, so I'm inviting you to join me. I'm sincerely inviting you to explore the secret realm with me, and besides this bloodline treasure, I can let you choose other things first. There should be some foundation establishment spirit treasures inside. The young man didn't expect Lu Changsheng to directly refuse without even thinking about it, and he continued to speak. He had been accumulating strength just to explore this cave. Who would have thought that he would be targeted by the 5 evils of the Ko clan? Originally, he thought that by creating a diversion, he could reduce his losses, but it ended up bringing trouble upon himself. Under Lu Changsheng's methods, he suffered even more losses. Not only did his pet snake die, but his trained black pattern worms also died, leaving him with fewer life-saving methods. If it weren't for the urgent need for this treasure, he wouldn't have come to cooperate with Lu Changsheng. No interest, go find someone else. Lu Changsheng still shook his head and said, he would have to be crazy to do such a thing. For him, the risks and rewards of such a thing were completely disproportionate. Not to mention cooperating with someone he didn't know, and who even had a grudge against him. Now, it was better to clean up his spoils and hurry back to Jiolong Market to enjoy his life. I know what you're worried about. I have a blood contract. We can sign a contract, and during the exploration process, neither of us can harm the other, or else the blood contract will explode, and we'll directly die. The young man continued to speak. I said, I'm not interested in this kind of cave. Lu Changxing's hand was holding a stack of talisman, and his voice turned colder. Even if the other party said it would be a great opportunity, he wouldn't go. Seeing Lu Changxing's attitude, the young man coldly snorted and drove his flying magical weapon away. Just as the young man left, Lu Changsheng felt a faint movement from the peach blossom goo on his forehead. It was as if it was telling him that he had missed a romantic luck. Romantic luck? Lu Changsheng was stunned, feeling a bit confused. He didn't understand what was going on. How did refusing the young man's invitation to explore the cave mean that he had missed a romantic luck? Isn't romantic luck only for the opposite sex? Wait, could it be that the young man just now was actually a girl in disguise? Lu Changsheng's mind seemed to have guessed something. First, we didn't get along. Then we went on an adventure together, and because we encountered danger, we finally developed feelings for each other. Lu Changsheng's face revealed a strange expression. What woman would need me, Lu Changsheng, to personally pursue her and then go on a life-or-death adventure together? Isn't the White Jade Tower enough? Lu Changsheng's face showed disdain, and he didn't have the slightest regret in his heart. He immediately took out a 100-mile invisibility talisman and quickly left to find a place to count his spoils. Half an hour later, in a mountain cave. This flying dagger should be an extremely rare magical weapon. No wonder its power is so astonishing. Not only did it directly pierce through my magical shield, but it also broke through 3 layers of golden light protection. Lu Changsheng held a blood-red flying dagger with an ancient design and continuously examined it. At that time, he felt that this flying dagger was not ordinary. He suspected it might be an extremely rare magical weapon or some kind of treasure. Now, after examining it, he was basically certain that it was an extremely rare magical weapon, with a probability of 80 to 90%. An extremely rare magical weapon was worth over 1,000 spirit stones. However, Lu Changsheng didn't plan to sell this flying dagger. He thought of keeping it on him for self-defense. It would also give him an additional attack method. Although he had many talismans, he rarely used magical weapons in his daily life. But having more methods at his disposal was naturally the best. If he got new equipment in the future, he could sell it then. After all, magical weapons like this wouldn't depreciate much. Lu Changsheng continued to clean up the spoils of war. 1, 2, 3. Tisk, TSK, TSK. These 8 magical weapons should all be high-quality magical weapons. Indeed, to do a good job, one must first sharpen one's tools. As a cultivator, one must have sufficient magical weapons and methods. There are also these magical robes and boots, which seem to be medium-grade magical weapons. Unfortunately, they were severely damaged by the golden talisman brick attack. This black cloud should also be an extremely rare magical weapon, and it's a flying and defensive magical weapon combined. Unfortunately, it's also damaged. Otherwise, I could have kept it for myself. I wonder how much it would sell for now. Lu Changsheng looked at these magical weapons, feeling both pain and joy. After all, this harvest was really huge. But seeing these magical weapons, many of which were damaged by the golden talisman brick attack, causing their value to plummet, he couldn't help but feel heartache. For example, among the 8 high-quality magical weapons, 2 were worn out and 3 were damaged. As for the magical robes and boots on the 5 people, they were almost broken beyond repair. An hour later, Lu Changsheng had finished cleaning up the 5 people's storage bags. There were a total of 639 spirit stones, 2 extremely rare magical weapons, 8 high-quality magical weapons, 13 medium-grade magical weapons, 3 flying magical weapons, a set of array equipment, several talisman, several pills, a pile of materials and miscellaneous items. I don't know what level this array equipment is or what formation it's in, but it looks like at least a medium-grade array equipment. I can find someone to appraise it at Jiolong Market, and if it's not bad, I can keep it for myself. These magical weapons, even though many are damaged and their prices have been greatly discounted, they're still worth around 4,000 to 5,000 spirit stones. Adding this array equipment, the pills, talisman, and materials, the total value is at least 6,000 to 7,000 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng looked at these things and his face was filled with joy. He felt that the 5 evil men of the Ko clan must have killed many cultivators. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so wealthy. After organizing the spoils of war, Lu Changsheng used a high-quality purification talisman to purify all the items, ensuring there were no problems. At the same time, he destroyed some suspicious items he didn't recognize and buried them in a hole. If I add the second-order beast taming inheritance, profound in true water, and the heavenly heart lotus, 2 foundation-establishing spiritual objects, the total value of this harvest would exceed 10,000 spirit stones. And the price I paid was just 2 strikes of the talisman treasure's power, 6 extremely rare talisman, 19 high-quality talisman, and 20 medium-grade talisman. No wonder so many people become demonic beast hunters. Killing and plundering is really addictive. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled, and couldn't help but sigh. At this moment, he even had the idea of making a living by hunting demonic beasts. But as soon as the thought emerged, he directly extinguished it. One should not get too close to the water's edge, lest they get their shoes wet. He just needed to live a stable life, get married, have children, and his future would be secure. Why take risks and do such things? This kind of thing, if encountered, would be fine. But to actively seek it out was absolutely impossible. After all, once you started, you would be on a path of no return. His income as a talisman master was already envied by many cultivators. But compared to the demonic beast hunter's way of making money, it was simply incomparable. Having experienced this way of making money, how could he possibly calm down and work hard to earn spirit stones? At this moment, Lu Changsheng also roughly understood the thoughts of those who hunted demonic beasts and explored secret realms. It was too difficult for them to settle down and live a stable life after getting used to making quick money without having a special skill or craft. I'll handle these things as soon as I get to Jiolong Market. Then my second-order talisman and second-order puppets will also be settled. Lu Changsheng's eyes shone brightly, filled with joy. With second-order talisman and second-order puppets, he would have some self-defense capabilities when facing foundation-establishing cultivators. Thinking of the young man who had come and gone earlier, Lu Changsheng decided to sell his spoils at Jiolong Market. He directly put on the 100 transformation mask, transforming into an ordinary young man with a dark complexion. He then wore a gray long robe and rode his steel-feathered eagle towards Jiolong Market. I feel like I need to get a better flying mount if possible. Lu Changsheng looked at his steel-feathered eagle and thought to himself. In the past, having a flying mount was naturally great. But now, with his increased standards, he felt that this steel-feathered eagle was somewhat lacking. Apart from traveling, it was not very useful in other aspects. For example, earlier, when he encountered danger, he had to use a talisman to protect his steel-feathered eagle. If the eagle was startled even slightly, it would lose control. If he were to be pursued, relying on the steel-feathered eagle to escape would be difficult. If I could get a flying pet through the system, this problem would be directly solved. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. In his opinion, if he could get a flying pet through the system, that would be perfect. After all, pets obtained through the system were likely to be of the heavenly bloodline. However, even if I got a flying pet, if it's just a cub, it wouldn't be easy to raise. And if the pet is too rare and unusual, riding it out in public would be too flashy and easy to remember. Lu Changsheng thought of the 9 netherworld hound he had been raising at home and slightly shook his head. He felt that without sufficient power, even having a rare pet wouldn't be easy to bring out. Like the 9 netherworld hound he had been raising at the Lu family, which had already shown signs of its true nature after nearly 4 years of cultivation. He estimated that in another 3 to 5 years, it would be obvious that it wasn't an ordinary demonic beast with a bloodline that wasn't low. I can only put the 9 netherworld hound in a spirit pet bag and carry it with me. Or, as I thought before, find a mountain range and release it, letting it grow on its own. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. If he were to release it, his only concern would be that the 9 netherworld hound might encounter danger. After all, the 9 netherworld hound currently only had the strength of a first-order initial-stage demonic beast. And it wasn't very strong. Thinking of the second-order beast-taming inheritance he had obtained earlier, Lu Changsheng took out the jade slip and viewed its contents. He looked to see if there were any methods that could help the 9 netherworld hound grow. Zijin Mouse, high bloodline demonic beast, uses gold attribute spirit materials and gold spirit rice in a 7:3 ratio to cultivate and upgrade to second order, requiring 10 pounds of gold iron ore and 1 piece of demon mouse crystal nucleus. Beaky Snake, high bloodline demonic beast, soak snake eggs in a spirit liquid made from beaky liquid, qingling wood, and first-order spirit water, then place them in a cold attribute material nest to incubate, and they will hatch in 3 months, with daily feeding. Lihua Bird, high bloodline demonic beast. This jade slip inheritance contained a lot of information about demonic beasts. It introduced how to cultivate, tame, and train these demonic beasts and how to quickly raise them as spirit pets. At the end of the jade slip, there was also a chapter on beast taming techniques. This allowed people to communicate with their spirit pets and imprint a master-servant contract on them. This inheritance doesn't have any information on raising 9 netherworld hounds, but based on the cultivation methods for these pets, it's basically 3 parts training and 7 parts eating. How to let the spiritual beast grow with the least amount of money and achieve the best growth during the cultivation process. After finishing reading the jade slip's content, Lu Changsheng felt somewhat disappointed. He wanted to inherit the beast taming technique, not become a beast tamer himself. Relying on himself to train, how could it compare to the system's lottery? He simply wanted to see if this beast taming technique would be helpful for raising the 9 netherworld hound. But after reading it, he came to such a conclusion and naturally felt somewhat disappointed. Even without reading the jade slip, he knew that if the 9 netherworld hound ate demonic beast meat every day, it would grow much faster than it was now. Why not just release the 9 netherworld hound? Or try releasing it for a period of time to see the effect. Otherwise, growing slowly like this every day is really too slow. Thinking about his plan for the 9 Netherworld Hound to grow to a second-rank demonic beast in 100 years, Lu Changsheng was even more inclined towards releasing it. After all, even if the worst outcome occurred and the pet was lost, it wasn't unacceptable. I'll wait until I have a second-rank talisman and a second-rank puppet, and then I can look for a suitable place to release the 9 Netherworld Hound. Then I can also observe the 9 Netherworld Hound's survival abilities. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. The next day, as he approached Jiolong Market, Lu Changsheng exchanged his steel-feathered eagle for a flying magical weapon. Then, with a disguised appearance, he rode the flying magical weapon to Jiolong Market, obtained a temporary identity card, and entered the city. Naturally, he entered the city with this identity to facilitate the sale of his loot. It didn't need to be thought about. The spoils of war from the 5 evil men of the Ko clan were things that couldn't be seen in the light of day. They might attract attention from people with ulterior motives. So it was still better to be cautious. Mainly, Lu Changsheng thought about selling the items quickly and exchanging them for spirit stones. Otherwise, it would be best to divide the items into batches and sell them slowly over 3 to 5 years or 10 years. But with spirit stones, he would be able to create a second-rank talisman and manufacture a second-rank puppet. He would have 2 more trump cards, and his ability to resist risks would greatly increase. Lu Changsheng felt that this risk was still acceptable. After entering the city, Lu Changsheng familiarly came to a larger magical weapon shop. What magic weapon do you need to buy? A female shop assistant with a beautiful figure approached. Is your shopkeeper here? I have second-hand magic weapons for sale, Lu Changsheng said expressionlessly. Before long, the shopkeeper laughed and came to receive him, and Lu Changsheng took out the magical weapons he wanted to sell. He didn't take out all the magical weapons at once. He only took out the Black Cloud magical weapon, 2 high-quality magical weapons, and the damaged law robes and boots. Friend, this top-grade magical weapon of yours is severely damaged, not only on the outside, but inside too, so our shop can only offer 820 spirit stones. These 2 high-quality magical weapons are still in good condition, but they also have some wear and tear, so our shop can offer 760 spirit stones. As for these law robes and boots, to be honest, they're severely damaged and can only be recycled as scrap, so we can offer 260 spirit stones. The shopkeeper could also tell that these magical weapons were obviously stolen goods, so he directly offered a low price. I'll give you a flat rate of 2,200 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng wouldn't agree to whatever price the other party said, no matter how anxious he was to sell. Friend, this price is a bit too high. To be honest, these things of yours probably have a questionable origin, and our shop will have to do a complete refurbishment to sell them. The shopkeeper made a difficult expression. Goodbye. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately pretended to leave. 2,000 spirit stones, friend. This is the highest price our small shop can offer. Such magical weapons are hard to sell at other shops, and they can't offer a high price either. The shopkeeper came forward to persuade him. All right, I'll take the price you said. Lu Changsheng naturally understood this logic and felt that the price was acceptable, so he didn't haggle. The 2 of them completed the transaction. Just as Lu Changsheng was about to leave, the shopkeeper's eyes narrowed, and he stroked his chin and said, "This Black Cloud magical weapon should be the magical weapon of the eldest of the Ko clan's 5 evil men, and it's now in this person's hands. But this has nothing to do with me. If all the Ko clan's 5 evil men fell into this person's hands, I'm afraid only a Foundation establishment cultivator can take him down. This news is also worth a lot of money." The shopkeeper smiled and shook his head, then leisurely returned to the upper floor. After leaving the shop, Lu Changsheng immediately found an inn and checked the spirit stones he had just obtained. It's true that as long as there's a bit of profit, there will be people who will try to cheat. Lu Changsheng looked at the 3 spirit stones that had a faint black smoke under the high-quality purification talisman. It was clear that someone had tampered with them. This was only what the purification talisman had detected, and there might be other problems that weren't known. However, Lu Changsheng didn't care. He changed his appearance, put on a new set of clothes, and directly headed to the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall. As long as he used up all these spirit stones, he wouldn't have to worry about any problems. Do you need to look at something, friend? Do you want me to introduce it to you? Lu Changsheng had just entered the Blue Cloud commercial hall when a beautiful female cultivator in a Cheongsam smiled and came forward to receive him. I need a top-grade magical weapon and talisman pen, Lu Changsheng said directly. Upon hearing this, the female cultivator's eyes lit up and her smile grew even more radiant. Please sit down, friend. She immediately invited Lu Changsheng to sit down and poured him a cup of tea. Then, she knelt down beside him, tightening her cheongsam to accentuate her curvaceous figure. For your convenience, our commercial hall has compiled a catalog of precious magical weapons, making it easier for you to browse and compare. If you're interested, I'll retrieve the actual item for you. Take a look at this Red Radiance Talisman pen. It's the best top-grade talisman pen we have at Blue Cloud Commercial Hall. The female cultivator smiled and took out an ancient, ornate jade catalog, flipping to the page with the talisman pen and pointing to it. The catalog immediately displayed a 3D image of a red talisman pen, along with related introduction information. Red Radiance Talisman Pen. The pen tip is made from the neck hair of a second-rank demonic beast, the azurite golden lion, and the pen body is crafted from a mixture of heavenly blue wood and red gold essence. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly. He had visited Blue Cloud Commercial Hall before and knew that this commercial hall was able to thrive not only because of its backing by the Blue Cloud sect. In terms of shopping experience, service, and product quality, they indeed did a great job. He glanced at the price of the talisman pen. 1,600 spirit stones. He couldn't help but gasp inwardly. He thought about how he had previously bought a medium-grade magical weapons and talisman pen at a discounted price of 70% of the original price at the Lu family spirit talisman shop. And Blue Cloud Commercial Hall's profit margin was likely to be even higher than his own spirit talisman shop. However, he had no choice. The Lu family spirit talisman shop didn't have top-grade magical weapons and talisman pens. Even if they did, he wouldn't be able to buy it at his own shop. It's expensive, but so be it. After all, this thing will last for a long time, and I'll eventually be able to earn it back. Lu Changsheng sighed inwardly, knowing that he couldn't save money on this. Going to other shops might be cheaper, but it would waste time, be troublesome, and there was no guarantee of availability. He flipped through the catalog, looking at a few other top-grade talisman pens. The cheapest one was 1,400 spirit stones, and the most expensive one was 2,000 spirit stones. After briefly examining them, Lu Changsheng still chose the 1,600 spirit stone Red Radiance Talisman pen. Do you have materials for crafting a second-rank talisman here? Lu Changsheng continued to ask. Now that he had spirit stones, he might as well buy everything at once. Of course we do. In this market, we have everything you need, friend. If we don't have it, you won't find it anywhere else. The female cultivator smiled confidently and said, "We have all the materials for crafting a second-rank talisman." She took out another jade catalog, which listed various materials for crafting second-rank talismans. The materials for second-rank talismans were much more complex than those for first-rank talismans. Different talismans required corresponding attribute demonic beast skins and spirit materials to make the talisman paper and ink. Otherwise, it would affect the success rate of crafting the talisman. Lu Changsheng looked at the materials listed in the catalog. There weren't many options to choose from. The materials were sold in packs of 10. Lu Changsheng bought 30 packs. He spent a total of 780 spirit stones. That meant the average cost of crafting a second-rank talisman was 26 spirit stones per piece. This didn't even include the cost of the talisman pen's wear and tear. However, he had no choice. The materials for second-rank talismans were rare and hard to find elsewhere, and collecting them himself would be too troublesome. To make things convenient and quick, he could only spend more money to buy them at Blue Cloud Commercial Hall. At least, buying from them came with a guarantee, and he wouldn't encounter any problems. Friend, the total comes out to 2,380 spirit stones. The female cultivator smiled and said. After saying that, she paused and said in a sweet voice, "Friend, since you're buying materials for a second-rank talisman, I assume you have some achievements in the talisman path. Do you have any interest in becoming a valued customer of our Blue Cloud Commercial Hall? If you're willing to become our valued customer, you'll enjoy internal prices when buying from us in the future. And if you need any materials, we'll be happy to help you collect them." The female cultivator's voice was sweet and charming as she spoke. "Oh." Lu Changsheng raised an eyebrow. "I'm not sure what you mean by having some achievements. As far as making talismans is concerned, you need to be able to stably craft high-quality first-rank talismans." The female cultivator smiled and said, "I'm not sure about the benefits of being a valued customer." Lu Changsheng continued to ask, "If you're interested, I can call our manager to discuss the details with you." The female cultivator's eyes lit up slightly. "No need to discuss it further. I was just asking casually. I can currently craft high-quality talismans, but it's still very difficult. I'm buying these second-rank materials to see if I can use them to draw a high-quality talisman stably." Lu Changsheng immediately waved his hand and said, "I'm still in disguise. How can I possibly become a guest elder at the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall? To become a guest elder here, I must verify my identity information. Once my identity is detected, my identity information as a first-rank talisman master will be exposed. If friend is interested, we at the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall welcome you at any time." The female cultivator dressed in cheongsam didn't mind and said with a smile on her face, "Okay." Lu Changsheng then paid the spirit stones, took the talisman pen and talisman materials, and walked out of the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall. Alas, the money comes quickly, and it's spent quickly too. Lu Changsheng thought about his recent expenses, and his heart ached secretly. He had never spent so much money before. In the past, when he first arrived at the Lu family, he only had 2 spirit stones a month. Now, after this round of expenses, he had spent over 2,000 spirit stones, which was equivalent to the amount he could earn in 100 years. Next, I'll handle the remaining magical weapons and materials, and see if I can buy all the materials needed to craft a second-rank puppet. Lu Changsheng let out a light sigh, repeated his previous actions, and busied himself. He sold all the magical weapons, useless pills, and materials to the shops. Then, after getting the money, he went directly to the Blue Cloud Commercial Hall to spend it and buy the materials he needed.